Welcome back to Raised by Spoilers, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Geek Movie House. Joining me, the feminist warlord, everybody's goth mommy, Nintendo Geek.
I love you.
Okay. You know him as the deadliest DM, Plebeian Adam.
I love you.
Okay. Wow, we're already starting off really strong.
Blushing.
Wow.
I know. Do you not tell him you love him enough?
I guess not. I'm so sorry.
Oh my goodness. Tonight we watched Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, you can find us on YouTube and follow us at Twitter. That Hell website. You can find us at RBS Pod. We'd love to hear from you and maybe some of your movie suggestions for films that you'd like to see us watch or hear us unpack.
Yeah, the whole point of this is to find movies one of us has not seen. So we're always learning something new. So The more you can suggest, the more likely haven't seen it.
We want to hear from you. Thank you very much for checking us out. That's pretty much it. Good night, everybody. No, this is Raised by Spoilers. We watched and unpacked a bunch of cult movies. Tonight we did Howl's Moving Castle. Adam, do you want to take it away for the breakdown?
Yeah, sure. Howl's Moving Castle is the 15th movie by Studio Ghibli.
Hold up. 15th?
15th.
Holy
Not even. They've had more than that. It's just the 15th.
Okay.
Right? They've had new ones since then.
I didn't even know there were that many.
Yeah. And the 8th, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, released on June 10th, 2005 in North America.
Okay.
2004 for Japan and everywhere else, pretty much.
Yep.
By Disney, with a runtime of 119 minutes. This movie, loosely based on Diane Wynne Jones' novel of the same name, was created on a budget of $24 million and grossed $236 million.
Wow.
The second highest grossing Ghibli movie, just behind Spirited Away, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone.
Spirited Away, I think, was the first one that Disney produced or released in the North Americas?
No, that would have been, there's plenty of them before that. The big one would have been actually Princess Mononoke that made them famous.
Okay.
But Spirited Away was like, Princess Mononoke got them on the map.
Yep.
Spirited Away, made them the map.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
It was marketed more, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. By this time, Studio Ghibli had their pick of famous actors with the success of Spirited Away. Starring in this movie was Christian Bale as Howl, Gene Simmons. No, not that Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons with the tongue.
As Old Lady Sophie, and Billy Crystal as the fire demon Calcifer. Winning 9 awards, Best Japanese Movie overall in 2004, 5 awards at the Tokyo Anime Award for Best Director, Best Voice Actor and Actress, specifically for Chieko Baisho, the one who played Sophie, both young and old.
Okay.
And Best Music, Best Animation of the Year, and obviously many others.
I hope she got paid twice. She's doing 2 roles. I mean, no, there's 2 actors for the English dub. So
yeah, you're right.
She's getting a fat check.
Hopefully. The movie has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 87% and a Metacritic score of 82.
Okay.
Wow.
So now we know what they think. What do you guys think?
I want to jump in quick before we get into the breakdown of that. Diane Wynne Jones, Howl's Moving Castle is the first novel in the series. The series also includes Castle in the Sky, published in 1990, and House of Many Ways, published in 2008. Another fun fact of, is it Diane? What did you say? Diane Jones. She studied in England at St. Anne's College in Oxford, where she attended lectures by both C.S. Lewis and Tolkien.
Wow.
In 56.
Cool.
Yeah. So you definitely get that vibe, those inspirations. You definitely, especially with some of these scenes in the door, and we'll get to that with the wardrobe and the door and the world building
also
that she does.
Also the anti-war, because
lot of
was
anti-war.
very anti-war.
So
but we will get all into that while we pack down in the show. So, Adam, you're absolutely right to take the reins on that one. Nintendo Geek. First time viewing the movie? I could have swore we've seen it before.
I've never seen this one. We watched Spirited Away.
Yeah.
And Princess Mononoke.
What do you think, just overall on the head, and what's your history with Studio Ghibli films?
So I've heard of this a lot. Like, I know this is a lot of people's like, this is my go-to. It's my favorite. And I've heard the track a lot, like the music, because a lot of people are using it on Instagram and TikTok. I didn't realize how much they used it throughout the movie.
It's one song.
I thought it's like, oh, this is like kind of like, it's going to be the beginning and like maybe the middle, but like they used it in almost every scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I get it. It was a cool, like I do like the riff. I like
whimsical.
the track. It's very whimsical.
Well, it's the leitmotif between Sophie and Howl, and this movie is based around Sophie and Howl. So there's a lot of times where that leitmotif comes back.
Yeah, like you can tell, like, oh, I'm thinking of Howl, and it's like do do do, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I didn't know she had a curse on her at all. Like, I haven't seen anything about this movie other than the egg and bacon scene of like the fire of Calcifer, sorry, of him eating, and I'm like, oh, okay. I thought she was a totally separate character than the like the young girl. Like,
Yeah.
So when she changed, and I'm like, holy, like when my reaction was like I was like, what?
They're the same.
That's a fun twist.
So I thought that was neat because it portrayed like, you know, different aspects of her character, like different like you know, how she went about life. Her whole attitude changed.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, just the overall plot was it was really, I don't know. It was kind of like up and down, you know, as she changed throughout. It was like, okay, like what is happening? I was trying to figure it out the whole time.
Interesting.
Yeah. But overall, I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Adam.
I brought this movie. I picked this movie, so you go.
Howl, the character. Oh my god. Okay. So the movie. Okay. Let me take a break.
Wow, I know there's a lot of thoughts going through your head because you
boy.
can't even get it straight.
All right. Let me just take a breath for a second here. The movie itself is beautiful. Studio Ghibli has a lot of eye for design.
Yeah.
It is certainly colorful. The palettes are immaculate. The difference within landscapes and cityscapes and even just overall areas, the background's stunning. The problem is it's a lot of substance and not enough story for me. I really kind of didn't like. I enjoyed Ghibli. I'm a big fan of these films. Anime is not necessarily my cup of tea. I'm very selective with certain things, but the story itself, and this might have been just the loose interpretation from the book of like, hey, we just need the plot and we can leave stuff at the door because we have to keep this movie moving and we have to keep it shorter and shorter and shorter because of cost and production. But personally, I didn't really like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of expected that to be honest.
Like I said, to separate, and this isn't anything to do with. It's a weird divide, right? Because Studio Ghiblis are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. Like I dig the movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot here where I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I want to play in this world. I want to play D&D in this world. I want to take like this Howl's Moving Castle steampunk turn of the century war conflict and Full Metal Alchemist. Thank you. And combine them together and have just this really cool setting.
Yeah.
The story itself doesn't necessarily work, or it's not that it doesn't work in the setting. It's just there's a lot. It's
a lot goes unsaid.
Yes,
and it's a lot of. It's up to you to interpret, and if you fail to interpret, you fail to get it.
Oh no, I think I get it.
Oh,
I think I get it. I just what I'm trying to argue, or not even argue, but say and try to clarify my points here because we just watched the film. Is you can have a movie that is beautiful, stunning, but the story still kind of falls flat.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yep.
They have an amazing budget. They have an incredible set designer. You see this a lot now with Jupiter Ascending.
Yeah.
Other like bigger, heavy CGI movies nowadays.
Yeah.
Valerian is another one that
Valerian,
comes to mind where it's visually stunning.
Yeah.
But the movie's not great.
Yep. I
feel like that's where I kind of fall with Howl's Moving Castle. Visually, I love it. It's gorgeous. I love this world. Just didn't stick with me. And that doesn't make it's a bad movie. Doesn't mean it's a bad story, but I have some issues with it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I see your point of view.
Right. For as far as my history with Ghibli, grew up watching Princess Mononoke or Mononoke, hit or miss halfway through. My grandmother rented Spirited Away when it first came out on like VHS at Blockbuster.
This is a kid's movie.
Well, it was a big, I think it was up for Academy Awards at one point. Kind of thing, and this one
he didn't
also
show up.
right, and this Howl's also was up for Academy Award, and it lost, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my history with it. I've seen this one. I've seen Tales of Earthsea, which I think is very fun.
That was very good too.
Very good, but also could have been a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the adaptations versus Miyazaki taking a story and just running with it.
Yep.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, we tried to do the garden when we were in Japan, and they have a huge sculpture garden.
Oh, at the Studio
and his
Ghibli
artwork,
Land.
like Studio Ghibli
Oh,
World.
he's like his museum thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't get tickets. It's sold out.
We realized
it's so sold out.
too late that you need to buy tickets a month
Okay.
or more in advance, and we were like 3 weeks out from our trip, and we're like, well, I guess we're not
And
going to.
then
I am
Studio
so
Ghibli.
glad you just said that because plebeian wife Amanda and I are planning a trip there, and I'm like, okay, and I want to go there.
You have
so.
to book a
you
month
have to book,
ahead.
but it's also like you got to book through like grocery stores or there's some weird. It's not easy to get tickets for this
Got it.
No.
kind of thing because they want the locals to go. They don't want
Oh,
and then
interesting.
you only have like 40 minutes. It's like you don't just stay there all day. You
Yeah.
are in and out because there's so many people who want to get in.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's gorgeous though, and also Ghibli is all over Japan.
Yeah.
Adam, you brought the movie.
Yeah.
Howl's. We've had arguments in your kitchen about Spirited Away and Howl's.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
did you think?
It is my favorite, I guess you could describe rom-com,
Okay,
or not rom-com, but romance movie.
sure.
It's my favorite romance movie, not my favorite movie.
Okay.
I think our title intro would imply, because we each kind of got some of our favorite movies on there. Mine, The Princess Mononoke, if you're noticing it. So out of the Ghibli films, it is not even my favorite.
Yeah.
But it is my favorite romance. And I completely agree with you. There's a lot of story that goes unsaid. And I think that all comes down to, part of me used to not like it a lot. Like, I used to be upset by that and not understand it. But I kind of started to learn Miyazaki's vision and ideology,
Sure.
which was he doesn't say things. And one of the statements he's made, which kind of got him in a bit of hot water, but I don't think at the time when he said it, it was more acceptable and right, which was something around the lines of, and I don't remember the exact wording, which was men say exactly what they say things that they feel and mean, whereas women feel the universe. Women feel the universe through emotions and feeling.
Tendergate, you feeling the universe?
I
right now?
know.
I am feeling it.
All right.
I feel
Okay, I can verify. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
whereas men are like colder and they just speak their thing.
Men are more blunt. Women are more like intuitive.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I think that was kind of what he was
Wow.
trying to get at, and you can tell that that's kind of how he was portraying these two characters. Sophie didn't say what she was feeling necessarily; she showed what she was feeling.
Okay, now that
Whereas
makes sense.
Howl, every single time he's like, "I love you," I'm terrible, I'm feeling sad. He made statements about how he felt, so it showed this divide between the two characters. Now whether that's right in a sense of that's how people feel in the world, that's fucked up. But the fact that he showed these two characters like that, okay, that shows that Howl's more direct, whereas Sophie's more indirect. And I think I really liked the way he took that. And now that I realize that it's more subtle than most movies we're used to, than the Hollywood movies we're used to, and that comes from a line that I think I'll share with you right now because I think it is useful. One of the things he said about Howl, because this was after Spirited Away. Remember, this was just when the Iraq War started. This is where he really got public with his "I don't like war" statements. So one of the quotes he said in an interview is, "I can say with considerable confidence that any movies I make in the future," this was around the time of Howl coming out, "will never be big hits in the United States. Around the time of the Iraq War, I even made, I'm just clarifying, around the time of the Iraq War, I even made a slight conscious effort to create a film that wouldn't be successful in the United States by
Hollywood standards.
Hollywood standards." So he
okay.
specifically built this knowing the Japanese culture would build it, it would work there, but not in the United States, which makes sense because I didn't like it until over years of time. I kind of got used to other cultures and that build through movies. So I didn't like this movie back in the day.
Okay.
I grew to love it.
Yeah.
I think now the most important part, and this is getting a little bit right here. I feel like there's a lot of mirrors, obviously over dramatized and fantastical mirrors between their relationship and what I feel like is between mine and plebeian wife's relationship.
Well, that's really nice.
Which is why I feel upset that she couldn't come today.
Oh, that happens.
But there's a lot of mirrors that I feel between those two characters. that I feel mirror ours. So it kind of has that special place in my heart where I'm like, that's me. I'm a fucking drama queen, and break down the moment I accidentally shave my fucking beard.
So
and Amanda picks me up and lifts me up and says, get out there, Tagger.
Okay.
So what I was going to just jump off of, especially when you said that's really sweet. First of all, that's very, very sweet. A lot of problems with that situation as well. A lot of problems with that relationship there, my guy. Not yours and your wives, but buddy. All right. What I will simply say is, especially when you made the clarification and distinguished separation from men and women, you have Howl saying, I love you and I'm sad, but he's not necessarily elaborating or communicating and expressing himself, but visually you see him melt. Yeah. You see him beast out when he's angry. You see him almost like manic in a way, where he just swings from different emotions. And that also adds to the borderline, what is the word here I'm looking for? Stockholm syndrome within the house.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Well, they're all very codependent on each other.
They are, but they're
certain
prisoners at that point.
Well, he's tied to the house. He can't really.
But he isn't, because he leaves all the time, and mainly the core doesn't. The other breakdown I wanted to have with that is there is just so many. I think. Let me clarify. With animation, unless those extra scenes and that extra money is there, the difference between animation versus live action, which kind of doesn't necessarily transition well enough, but I feel like some of it is spoken, because you have to lean into, I'm going to say what I'm thinking and feeling with animation, is body language.
Yeah.
Right. I think Vampire Hunter D even showed where it's like there's no body language because they're just flat images.
Yeah.
Right. And Howl has to over exaggerate in that whimsical manner.
Yes.
To kind of portray the body language, because if not, it's just it's a stagnant image. And it's, I'm angry. Right. Like pregnant pause, nothing happens. And you do get some of those scenes though, where you just kind of have like, what is going on? Is this supposed to be tense?
Yeah.
Because it's just an image. Right.
Well, with you mentioned it too on another episode, where it's like Studio Ghibli has this way of like, even if there's nothing going on, like maybe if they're not expressing it, the environment around them changes. Like the hair goes up, everything kind of like, it's like a static charge in a way. Because even when he was angry a few times and he just had that weird smile on his face, his eyes were getting bigger or his hair was going, and it's like, oh, he's like angry, but he's still like showing like no emotion.
Right.
So like they have a way of doing it where it's like nothing going on, but still everything happening.
Yeah. Well, even
subtly.
Even to credit, you called out earlier, Adam, there is never not something moving. It's they try very, very hard not to have just a still image or two characters standing and dialogue.
Yeah, when they're talking, really they're always someone's pulling on something, someone's doing something physical.
Or the background,
or the background is emanating what they are feeling internally. If there's like a still slow image on their face, the background emanates what they are,
right?
How they're feeling in that moment.
And it's even in this film, for as long as it is, it's rare to get still imagery with VO.
Yeah,
which means very expensive because something is happening, right? Because normally it's a cheap cut. It's a cheap trick.
Yes, I completely
and it's not a bad thing, but it's a scene with clouds moving and just people talking.
Yeah,
and that's how you're kind of like, we need to relay this information, and we don't want to animate it, and we don't know how we're going to work around it, but a train in the background, or the clouds, or grass, and then just talking, and that is just saving money.
Yeah, so they did I think. Obviously, there's a lot of beautiful animation. I don't even know what to talk about with the animation, especially when it comes to Ghibli, because it's one of those things where it's Ghibli.
Yeah, you kind of have a concept, and the if you've seen it, you've seen it. It is a unique, almost storybook style.
Yeah.
There is
very fluid.
It is very fluid. There is moments where they're almost overdrawn. The amount of detail for an object being so small or even large. A rock is never just a big square, gray, or chunk.
Yeah, they've got little gyrations in it.
Right. The interesting enough when digging around, a book company has, you can buy like the concept art for each film,
That makes sense.
and they're nice like coffee table books. So
Sure,
if you
they'd
do
be
have like a favorite Ghibli film, they usually sell, here is the stills and the images and like the backgrounds and stuff for these films.
One thing I've always noticed with Ghibli, that one of the things I always find when I notice a good director or good animation studio is when they animate really fluid creatures.
Okay.
So Princess Mononoke inspired me with the demons and the
Yeah.
tentacles, which I'm sure we'll watch that movie at some point.
Yep.
But in this one, it's the like goo henchmen.
The Goo
Yeah.
Henchman. Yeah.
The
those
goo
are fun.
henchmen, which was very, they draw it so well that you can see the shape, but you can also see they don't have shape, and they morph from that shape. So what that tells me is that the animators have creativity to morph the shape into what they need it to be, but also a strength of being able to get from, you know, mainframe A to mainframe B, where they're in drastically different situations.
Yeah.
Different shapes, sorry.
Yeah.
And I just find that to be, that tells me that's usually a clear sign of genius animators.
Sure. Absolutely. Or gentlemen that really, really enjoy their craft.
Ghibli's 50% male and female.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, then I
Or at least
apologize.
it was at the time of
Probably
this
still
movie.
is.
I'm assuming it is.
The one other fun fact about Howl's Moving Castle, I will say, the book was adapted into a radio play in 2021 by BBC Radio 4.
Really?
So go find that
Oh,
if you
that's
can listen
recent.
to it. So it should be up on YouTube somewhere
That's
to
cool.
check it out if you're ever not listening to us.
Yeah, before we get into like the scene by scene, I obviously read a lot or listened to a lot and read a lot about the book. I've never read the book.
Yeah.
But it feels to me like the original, actually there's two facts I want to throw your way. It feels to me like the original book was more of like a tween romance type of thing, like
It's a young adult.
like
novel.
young adult
like
novel
light
about
novel, yeah.
romance and stuff like that. And I think the original book almost taught bad lessons because
Oh.
in the original book, Howl was even worse than he is in the movie.
Yeah.
As in, Howl in this one is aloof.
Mm-hmm.
He's just aloof and uncaring because he doesn't have a heart, and then eventually gets a heart
Yeah.
and becomes non-aloof. But in the books, he was straight up womanizer. And
Oh, like a misogynistic.
Misogynistic,
character?
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a total piece of shit.
a
In the
total
books.
piece of fucking
Really?
shit.
Yeah,
So
he's a
they
piece of
really made him like
Yeah.
pretty here.
Yeah, they made him a lot more acceptable.
Okay.
I think it works better for the character. It makes the aloofness, you're like, okay, I can kind of forgive aloofness so that when he does get his heart, it's like, okay, he's got his heart. We're good now.
Well, you
Yeah.
get that in the beginning, right? When the women are in the shop all gossiping about like, oh, Howl will come and steal you away. Well, he only does that to pretty girls, right?
Yeah.
Callbacks to characterisms in the book or mannerisms in the
Yeah,
novels.
exactly. But I also feel like they made Sophie in the books, they made her a, what do they call it? It's not a Mary Jane. Mary Sue. Mary Sue.
Yep.
They made her a Mary Sue, and that's fine because they were kind of going for that Twilight vibe where
Yeah,
you're
you wanna
supposed to
put
take the place of
yourself into it, yeah.
in Sophie. And I kind of get that. So it's a power fantasy for women. But I kind of like this version of Sophie more where in the books, she had magical power. She just didn't know it.
Oh, okay.
So she would make statements, and they kind of hint at it in the movie, which is she would make statements and they would become true because she was such a powerful innate
Yeah.
caster.
Oh, like it was like if you do it, I'll be fine.
Yeah,
Or because you're here, it'll work.
exactly. Hey, can you give me the heart? Okay, I'll give you the heart. You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
she's magically casting. In this one, I kind of prefer that subtle version of her.
Okay.
Where she, instead, it's not magic in like a rules magic, like I'm casting spells. It's the magic of her care. It's the magic of her love. It's the magic of the attention she's giving people.
Yeah.
And it's more of a real worldly magic that we would, the magic glove kind of thing, rather than an actual spell. And I think that plays off better. The other one, this is an isekai. Howl is a human from Wales.
Oh. Oh, so he's from like another world.
Yeah.
Oh my God, where's
In
the,
the book.
long title? I became a magical prince in another world, and now I have a castle.
yeah. He's that's the joke that we made about the black.
Konnichiwa, motherfuckers.
Konnichiwa,
Hit the
motherfuckers.
intro.
Yeah, hit the instant noodles. Yeah, he's in the original book. He's the black, the magical door.
Yeah.
The black one actually goes to Wales.
Oh, that's because you said that. I'm like, what are you
What does that
talking
mean?
about?
I assume
So
he
like
would
him
know
being
because
in
I'm assuming he did.
So his like
some
house in the
research.
countryside is like his just house picked up and put into this world in a way.
Pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He came to this world. So he's a man teleported to another world to be a magician. It's an isekai anime.
I could see that being like adapted into an actual anime. I'm sure there's so many.
Oh yeah,
There's
for sure.
so many of those.
So I wanted to drop those on you for now.
Okay.
So Sophie's main problem is men.
What?
Sophie's main problem is men.
Okay, explain.
The beginning of the movie, we find Sophie. Welcome to the plot, everybody. Welcome to Howl's Moving Castle. As we pan over a beautiful shot of the city, we are at war. The prince is missing, and witches and wizards are
They're
being
about to go to
called.
war. They're all doing war marches. Like, look, we're about to go to war.
Look at our strength of our nation.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily get the names of the nations or the two kingdoms, but witches and wizards are being drafted in, called to arms by their king. Support us, and you are ever indebted within the kingdom. If you do not, you are a sworn enemy.
Yeah.
Yikes. Sophie, almost a hermit-like woman, wanting to keep to herself, makes hats for a living. Her coworkers and mother invites her out to say, hey, come on out for the drinks with the ladies. You work hard and you're fantastic. Later on, she leaves after a hard day's hat making.
Yeah, it's clearly like she's not attached to her work. She just doesn't want to go hang out with them.
Right.
Yeah, because she finished right
she's
away.
bookish.
She's like, oh, I still have lots of work to do. And within 5 minutes, she's like leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. She leaves, goes down an alley, sees the wars, the parade of tanks and soldiers.
I do love the cinematography, and this is what I'm talking about with Miyazaki's, quiet, subtlety, where she's got this picture window where she's working, and for the most part, for some parts it shows this dreamlike landscape with the Howl, the moving castle in the background, as they all notice some beautiful clouds, and then suddenly, as she kind of comes back to Earth and realizes, oh, that's not me. Suddenly it's cloud, dark fog of the train.
The whole city is just full of pollution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the pollution of the city from the train coming through, and it just clouds her and blocks her, going, nope, that's not your dream.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into this a little early. The window scene itself is the betrayal of her life, and in which case, what she views everything through.
Yeah.
So there's the same reason why the door is so important. She always looks out this window going, just exhaling, right? What you say. So that the concept of open the door and go anywhere is screamed throughout this movie, especially when we get into the portal scenes. Lucy? Not Lucy. Sophie. Oh my God. Why I started calling her Lucy at the beginning of the episode. I'm sorry, everybody.
Lucy in the sky.
Lucy in the sky, yeah. Sophie finishes up her day and leaves. Already we are seeing that she is disgusted by the soldiers, a lot of men in uniforms, and the magnificent display of military.
Yeah.
Takes a shortcut down an alleyway and is immediately confronted by two soldiers.
Yeah.
Right?
Mr. Mustachio.
Mr. Mustachio and Batman Beyond. I cannot remember the gentleman's name. It's killing me. So 2 Batmans in this movie.
Yeah. Is that who plays that character?
Yeah, it's Will Friedle.
Is that the guy who plays Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond?
Will Friedle is the gentleman who voices Terry McGinnis.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Batman Beyond.
Oh.
So
Nice.
we have
Good find.
two Batmans in Hell. They give her a hard time, confronting that she's beautiful.
Oh,
and,
there's a little mouse who's lost.
Look at how cute she is, right? Oh my goodness, look how cute she is. And then David Bowie from Labyrinth steps out and says, oh my God, dear, I've been looking all over for you. And guess what? Men get her into this problem. Hal gets her into this problem. And then Hal walks her away from the 2 soldiers, and the soldiers are like, okay, well, I guess.
No, he magics them away.
Magics them
he
away.
goes like, you're gonna go now, and they're like, oh, what am I doing? I guess I'm marching over this way.
Right.
So he told them to go away.
It seems like they're used to the concept of obviously they're used to the concept of magic. They're just they don't always expect it, because I'm sure 90% of people in this world
dress
don't
like David
interact.
Bowie.
Yeah, just don't interact with magic for the most part.
Right.
And then maybe once in their life, twice in their life, they'll see magic, but they know of it existing.
Yeah.
Which is wild, because we get back to the D&D argument where there's no rules or laws or anything like that. There's just witches and wizards cursing people all over the place, and it's totally fine.
Well, I think it's like as long as you don't use magic against people, you're fine. Like
But
they were
the
making,
whole concept of the movie is
potions
them
and-
using magic against
I know,
people, though.
but-
So.
Yeah, but those
Yeah.
two were banished, remember. The two main wizards that we see were kind of banished from the academy and the system. They were basically
Yeah.
told, no, you're not okay. You're banished to the waste where there's no one around.
Yeah.
You think the rules do not apply for you, and so in which case the safest place is no place, and we push you out into the waste.
Yeah. So there are rules and laws, and there's a mage system that governs it all. It's just I get the feeling like they kind of treat them like you're a little bit better than the average folk.
What I
Right.
didn't understand was why he came in the city, because it showed like he was in the background, and the ladies were like, "Oh, don't worry, like he's gonna eat your heart, like don't go, like as long as he's out there, he's
For
fine."
women.
Yeah.
That's where the white women at.
Oh, sure, true.
Yeah,
He
he's
came in
after that good hat.
specifically- Oh, okay.
well, there's this in theory, there's this theory for the movie, which is he spends so the whole shtick is that he finds women, meets them, hangs out with them, they grow in love with him, he abandons them.
Immediately.
And that's the whole,
Wow.
he steals their heart. He never actually physically steals
oh,
their heart.
I thought he was actually like maybe.
Well,
looking-
they thought that.
Oh.
He sweeps
The
them away.
world does that.
Yeah.
But
Okay, because I
he's-
guess you're under a spell, and then you just become like super depressed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the whole shtick to it. They find deeply in love with this guy. It's kind of like being in love with a vampire, right? It's like this magical level of intoxication.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the theories is that he's been doing this trying to find Sophie because of the time travel later on in the
Oh,
movie.
Right.
okay, yeah.
I was gonna
okay,
get
that makes
there.
sense.
Well, it's
gonna
kind of
get there at the
important. It's
end.
kind of important to get here now
Yeah,
because
okay.
it connects from the end.
Sure.
So we'll reconnect it,
Right.
but it's important to know that one of the theories is that he's kind of like that because A, he's got no heart, and B, he's searching for someone, but without the love and the care involved.
True.
It's mechanical searching.
He's trying to
Okay.
fill that cup that'll never,
Yeah,
or that will always be empty.
exactly.
Right. With women.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I thought you were making another labyrinth joke there.
No, I was. So Hal, dressed like David Bowie, sweeps Sophie off her feet and escapes the goons
I love the actual physical, like sweeps her off her feet physically.
physically.
Like it's a physical manifestation of that concept.
And then you look back and you see demons or actual goo goons
And he's like,
chasing
"Don't
her.
worry about it."
No,
Oh, seems
he
you're
gets,
involved.
He gets 5 feet and goes, "Oh, my bad, you're involved now." And you're the entire time as an audience, you're like,
Grabs her
"What the
closer,
fuck?"
and it's like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
She's just got a face that's just raw terror.
Well, yeah, it's terrible because it's the first time you're seeing monsters or
Yeah.
whatever these demon entities are. You're hearing all of these terrible stories about this man who creeps through alleys and kidnaps and abducts women.
Yeah.
And then she's flying.
Yeah.
And Sophie and Hal do the classic, just walk. And we get our first cringe line of the movie once Sophie and this beautiful shot of Hal and Sophie walking across the skyline. And everyone is seeing this.
Yeah.
No one's noticing because
They all notice because they talk about it when they get back.
Wow, you floated down from the
We
balcony.
all
So
watched
definitely
you
some people
walk
noticed.
across
some
the
people
sky.
noticed.
Definitely
Yeah.
some people noticed, yeah.
And then Hal gently puts her on a balcony and says, "That's my good girl." And we all,
We all collectively were like,
Exhausted with this movie.
"Oh,
friends, I just want to let you all know personally, Hal fucking sucks in this movie. He is awful. He is so
He's a
bad.
big-
And I
But-
get it. Hal's hot and he's emo
here's
as
he's the
shit.
original emo because it's
He's
from
so
2005."
bad.
Here's the deal is
Ugh.
you are absolutely right. But here's the difference between where we're going with this.
Exhausting.
Is, to me, you're absolutely right. Howl is a fucking monster in this.
He's not a monster. He's
a
just
classic-
exhausting.
Well-
he's a classic white knight.
he is.
Yeah, he
But
is.
lady.
My
But
lady, I'm
he's
gonna.
got, yeah, you're right. He's got no heart. He's soulless about it. He's a womanizer in this, and that's my good girl. And you're like, oh my god, that's
That-
dirty.
ugh.
But
You like my trailer park castle?
yeah,
It's got chicken legs. It's a big old trailer park castle.
Trailer Park Boys Castle.
Oh my
I'll give you
god.
$10 to fuck off. Anyway, I don't have a problem with that in the sense that they weren't conveying him as a good character. They were conveying him as a heart eater, womanizer, bad person because he has no heart. He doesn't love anyone. He is a womanizer.
Right.
And they make it very clear that he has no heart. So when they say he's a bad person, they make it clear. In my mind, that was a clear statement of he is not a good person.
Hey Adam. Hey Adam. Stay away from him.
Yeah,
He's no good for you.
exactly.
He rides a castle.
Well,
But
that's
it's
what her
true.
friend said. She's like,
Watch out. That no good hot boy who rides a castle all around the English countryside. He's no good for you.
And I think that's where it comes from the book is that whole like woman thing where it's like, oh no, I can fix him.
What woman
It's like,
thing?
woof.
Oh, that woman.
The classic the tween books romance where I can fix him is like,
Well, yeah.
well, that is a bad ideology to have.
But this was back in 2000 and written in the 80s. So yeah, like that was the whole stick of anything.
To me, that's the problem is this kind of tells the tale. And that's why I didn't really like the book for what tale it tells, which is you can fix the bad boy who rides a motorcycle.
Have you
and
not
does
seen
hard
the
drugs.
Breakfast Club? Come on.
I don't know, because like the information I have though on the novel is there's a little bit of like non-gender conformity. There's a lot of other stuff that the novel itself is pushing towards that is relatively ahead of its time.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing. Like so, there as much as there is the I can fix them, there is still like. Everybody go read Howl's Moving Castle. I looked it up on Audible. It's about 8.5 hours. It's a tight 90 minutes is what we like to say. You could probably finish it in 2 to 3 days if you kind of plow through it. Give it a listen because you might find something that you really enjoy, especially if you're a fan of maybe not Lord of the Rings, but C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia without all of the religious ideology down your throat.
They just have like I think the book has good things to say and bad things to say in the same way that the movie has good things to say and bad things to say. One of the things which is I think is misunderstood, which is Howl's a bad character. Why would you ever love him? You're like, yes,
because
he has no heart.
Just said.
But
he has no heart.
He's a bad character.
He's a bad character.
And, oh my God.
I get it. Sophie fixes him, and that concept is not great.
Sure,
that's what Sophie does. Sophie is his hero.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Sophie saves his heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see this right at the beginning where he's a womanizer and treating her like that. And I think that's like, ooh, our reaction is, oh God, is
that
the
was
right
the most
reaction.
cringe line. After that, he didn't really do too much.
No.
Bro. We're going to get into that. Howl fucking leaves her ass as toxic goo monsters are sliding all over the city and looking for him. At which point, her friend...
Her sister.
Her sister?
Letty is her sister.
Letty, her sister, comes in and says, oh my God, you were flying across the sky. What the fuck's going on? And we get a weird moment where it's like, Letty, you can use my office. Letty? Letty is like, you can use my office.
What a weird little like interjection.
Well, her sister's clearly very pretty. Like blonde hair, blue eyes, makeup, like...
And everyone's willing to do whatever for her.
So you can see where her jadedness has come from for her never being pretty because people have probably always put her first, with looks and everything. And she's probably got special treatment her whole life.
Well, there's also a thing I got here where the concept of... you get the line with Letty telling Sophie to go do stuff for herself.
Yeah.
Step out that front door and do something for your own life.
Go. You've been locked up in dad, because she's the one that took over. She's the older sister, so she took over the business with her mom when her dad left or
when her dad died.
Her dad died.
So she's been
presumably in a
cooped
war.
up, right?
Right.
When her sister is able to go and do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. And I feel like what I found too is Letty leans more to womanhood compared to Sophie. Within the concept of beauty, within the makeup
concept of beauty,
and her being
sure.
Within a very bright pink skirt or not skirt, like bright pink dress. She's working in a coffee shop as a waitress. Everybody likes her.
It's a bakery shop.
A bake shop.
Bakery.
The bake shop. You even have the line with like the office, like please come on in and use my office, ladies.
Yeah.
And then there's the moment where Sophie even talks about dressing almost like an old lady. And the line where I found where she's like, well, their father wouldn't want this. And you have this weird little sweet spot where Sophie cannot move on or let go and is still not necessarily acting or dressing, but like living in that time period where she's still a child.
Yeah.
Because that presumably is when her father was still alive.
Well, that's an interesting take.
And
I like that.
that's
Yeah.
the dynamic I just picked up when the sisters were talking. And instead of taking the office and all of the guys hitting on her, because there's those moments where we get the first shot of Letty in the coffee shop bakery and all the dudes are checking her out.
Yeah.
And then they all stop to go look at Sophie floating in the sky.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there is this weird like, hey, it's time to grow up, or it's time to get out of your four walls, or you're at a sweet spot.
It's time to get out of the shadow of your parents.
And you don't have a husband, and you're not married, and you're not like, there's that push to adulthood as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you're the oldest. Go figure out what you need to do. Don't just sit and make hats
Yeah, don't live under the shadow of your dad's and your dad's business, your
Yeah.
father and your parents' business. Go make your own life.
And that's why there's such an encouraging moment of like, it's almost shitty because Sophie doesn't feel pretty. And Letty's whole example is very much just like, well, doll yourself up and go get out there.
Yeah.
Put a pair of
Yeah.
high, her answer is put a pair of high heels on.
Yeah, put some makeup on, put some high heels on, get the fuck out of there, girl.
Right. Like,
She's not condescending.
she isn't, but there is a little bit of like gender reformity where it is just like, look pretty,
Yeah.
act normal.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily
Toe the line.
That doesn't necessarily fit Sophie's character.
Yeah.
At all, right? And that also has this like sort of like, this is where I kind of see where the book was going, where it is just kind of like, you're not like other girls and you get swept off your feet kind of thing, or you're not like other characters and you get swept off your feet by this magical boy.
The problem with my statement of that is in the book, Sophie was actively described as pretty.
Oh, okay.
And her concept of just being ugly,
She just didn't believe it.
well, that's a weird. Okay.
She was pretty. She was considered a very pretty woman. Like she was described in the book. The words used were pretty.
Yeah.
And beautiful and other descriptive
That's a common
words.
trope, though.
Yeah, but it's the idea is like as the reader, you're supposed to. The whole shtick is that as the female reader reading this book, you are pretty. It's supposed to be reaffirming like this character's pretty. You're pretty. You just don't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. That's the message the book is trying to put across. It's kind of that Twilight story where it's supposed to inject you into it. But she was pretty. She was defined as pretty. Whereas I kind of prefer this version.
Oh my God. I just had to take the glasses off.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let your hair down and take the glasses off.
Cut that braid off.
Cut the braid off.
And all of a sudden you're hot with a bob.
Exactly.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
I kind of prefer this version where they don't really specify that she is attractive. It's more about it focuses on her feeling whether or not she feels attractive. For all we know, if you put a bunch of makeup on her, maybe she would have been as pretty as her sister. Well, we don't know. We don't care. That's not the point.
That isn't. And like, and I know we're lingering a little bit here, but to jump off what you were saying is the book was written by a woman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Predominantly when you see novels or any real story, unfortunately, written by a man who doesn't know how to write women.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, we'll get into a character being awesome. He's so awesome. He is awesome. He's ripped. He's muscular. He's got this armor. He's suave. His suits are beautiful. He's got a light smell of cologne and cigar. And then you get a man writing a woman, and she's hot. She's pretty.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of statement, Sophie being pretty, is in a way not to justify, but I guess legitimate. Where Sophie grew up as a pretty girl, well off. Her mom seems to be rich. They own a business.
No. So the whole shtick is, and I don't think they make this clear in the movie at all. I think because they just skip by it. That's not the point. Is they were going poor. The stepmother. It's actually a stepmother, not her actual mother.
Oh.
Basically, when the father died, they started to lose money. Like they just couldn't keep shit together.
Right.
The stepmom was kind of aloof with the whole business, as you can kind of tell.
Yeah, she was going on trips.
She was going on trips. She didn't really care
We're
all that
at
much.
war and we're making hats.
Yeah.
There's a weird.
Exactly.
bleeding
And
cash
Sophie
area.
took out the role of her father to keep the business going, but the business was failing.
Yeah, they didn't portray that at all.
And
that's
Sophie's
so
mom, that's why later on she makes a comment in the movie where she's like, I married a guy. He's super rich. Now we can all live together. Because she actually sent each of her other daughters. There's actually 2 other daughters, but and she even made mention of one of
Yeah,
the
they were
sisters.
cut from the film.
They were cut,
There is
yeah.
a thing where Miyazaki literally says we would have had too many
things, yeah.
Too many characters, too many
So
spinning
Letty
plates.
went off to go be a baker. Like, we can't afford to just keep everyone under this roof. So Letty, you need to go be a baker.
Okay.
You need to go live your life as a baker. And then she sent the other sister off to be a wizard. And if you notice when she left the town, when she became old, she's like, I'm off to find my sister. That was legit.
Right.
She was off to find her sister who could maybe help her.
See, which is so much more interesting because you look at the items and the accessories and the way Sophie cherishes the hat. Because there's a couple times where she goes to meet the king.
Yeah.
When we get to that scene where Sophie is like, Howl is like, I used all my magic for the day to make you look beautiful and that dress look clean and everything's great, but you're going to wear that old shitty hat.
Yeah.
And that hat extends back to the hat shop, which extends back to her childhood, which extends then back to her father and not
It's
being
a
able to
connection
move
of her childhood.
on. It is.
And it's very plain.
And she loses the hat
That's good.
eventually.
And then she loses her goddamn mind. And that's
Well,
when,
she loses her hat.
yes, she loses the hat, but then stuff starts to shift.
Yeah.
We actually get the full shift.
But it's from then where, like you see, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes. There's a lot of cool little things happening, which is beautiful.
We get to the Witch of the Waste.
Yes.
Yeah, the Witch of the Waste walks in and just starts
A tacky
talking.
little hat shop. And you're the most tacky thing, yeah.
Why is the Witch of the Waste there?
I think her gremlin guys told her that Hal was with
A girl?
this girl.
Yeah.
And
So
they
she
tracked
found
her
her?
down.
She fell in love with Howl.
Okay.
She wants Howl's heart.
Yes.
But that's the whole shtick is she wants Howl's heart for greedy reasons. She wants his love because she wants his love. She doesn't want to reciprocate the love.
Right.
So she wants his heart, but it's a greedy thing.
Yes.
And in so doing, I think that might also come with like the terror of what Howl does to girls. Because I'm going to assume, that following the wake of Howl, the Witch of the Waste finds some of these women that are his ex-girlfriends, I guess you could say, and fucks with them.
Right.
And this is just something she does. She just chases them down like, no, that's my boyfriend. This is like the ex-girlfriend just
Showing
ruining every single relationship.
Yikes.
I just saw something. So they're not the Witch of the Waste's henchmen. They're Solomon's henchmen.
The goo?
Yeah.
No, they're Witch of the Waste henchmen. The henchmen for the Solomon are the little blonde kids
Frog
and the dog.
and the frog.
Frog.
The frog paratroopers.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
At the end.
Well, those
Sorry,
are
I
okay,
never
okay,
described them as
sorry.
frogs, but you're totally right.
You're right.
Frogs.
There's two different ones. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They're just drawn the same and like they're the same color, but they have tails and they're frog legs.
Yeah, they are two different things.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. At which point, the Witch of the Waste kind of swoops through and gets really big and expands out and almost balloons out with just these rolls of skin.
Oh.
And she's sweaty and just tacky and shitty and flies through Sophie and curses her and then goes like, peace. And
The Howl, I said, peace out.
yeah, tell your boyfriend to get his shit out of my house.
And you can't talk about this.
Yeah, don't ever say or I'll kill your family kind of
No,
thing.
she
And it's
physically can't talk about it.
wild. Interesting concept that you can't speak about the curse, or none of the curses can be talked about.
Yeah.
But there's curses. We get a weird shot where Sophie doesn't necessarily change. It's just the Witch of the Waste walks out, and then Sophie's old.
Yeah.
Very old.
Very, very, very
The
old.
oldest you see her in the movie.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, and
She's
she
all
just
hunched
progressively gets
over.
younger as the film goes on.
Yeah.
Sophie then flips out, being like, I'm an old lady. Oh, no.
To
But
be
then
fair,
also
she took that pretty well.
She also then makes the comment about, like, well, at least my clothes suit me.
Yeah.
Which
she's
is odd.
talking, it's that inner, what's that self-toxic talk?
Yeah.
It's more of that. It's that self-deprecating. She doesn't think much of herself.
Yeah. So now what she thinks matches what she feels on the outside is now, or feels on the inside is now on the outside. And that could have been the curse.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
the
she
ugliness.
feels like an old, ugly woman.
Yeah. I don't think it was the curse. No, I think I think she was just cursed to be old and ugly because that's how Howl generally likes pretty women. And I think she's just has self-doubt.
But when she's sleeping, she wasn't old.
True.
So I think it's just when she's actively thinking.
Could be.
It does transition a couple times.
That it does, yeah. So
Constantly.
the transition is the whole shtick. One of Miyazaki's quotes regarding it was "Love makes you younger," and that's what he's
really
trying
sweet.
to
That's
physically
really nice.
Yeah. So when she
convey in
was
this.
feeling more
in love,
and happy.
and confident, I think.
Because then there's one scene where she was very young talking to him and he's not, no one's mentioning it. Like she isn't even noticing it.
Yeah,
And then she immediately goes back to self-doubt and goes like super old again.
yeah. Obviously Howl knew she was cursed right from the beginning, so he saw right through the curse. Whether he knew what she looked like, but she knew like, okay, you're cursed to be ugly.
And that's why I said he
old.
wasn't that bad because he never mentioned like, oh, who's this old woman? He just kind of went along with it. He wasn't like really mean to her because of it. So he's not that bad.
I'll say something once we get to a certain point
We're gonna
about
get that.
Yeah.
Sophie, instead of panicking and telling her stepmom or any of the women she works with, decides to pack up, steal some cheese and bread, and hit the fucking road.
Just a fucking chunk of
Hit
cheese.
the road.
Just a fucking-
Sophie leaves, hitting the road,
Delicious looking cheese, by the way.
looking for help or other magical users
Yeah.
across the town. As there's a beautiful shot where she gets on the back of a giant wagon, or not even a giant wagon, tiny wagon full of hay.
I
and
love
it's
that
just
scene.
the contrast in size and scope is wonderful. She makes it farther and farther out, away from her hometown and deeper through the war-torn countryside until we get to the outskirts of the weird waste.
Yeah.
In which case, Sophie goes, and on her own, telling farmers and other people that she's looking for her sister and not to worry about her as an old woman. Continuing through the waste, we find Sophie exhausted and repeatedly telling us any opportunity she gets a line that she's old and sore and old and sore, and that this is way harder than she thought it was going to be because she's old, and that she loves being old, but she's old and sore.
Well, she just
and
keeps
it's like,
repeating
okay,
that as being an old person, she's never felt so peaceful. Like, she's calm, and not that she's not afraid of anything. So her confidence gets more and more.
Yeah.
right. And she does. She is impressed with her quick wit and how unassuming everyone is of an old sweet old lady, which is quite fun.
Her personality really comes out.
She's having fun with it at that point.
Yeah.
There's also this weird sort of, I guess, people aren't finding her attractive in a way.
People aren't thinking about her.
People aren't thinking of her, so she's just trying to, like, kind of existing.
Yeah.
And also being kind of quirky and
she
fun.
doesn't care anymore. So she's like, oh, I'm carefree. Who cares? I'm old.
Right. And there's no hassle. She's not getting stopped in the street by two soldiers to be like, hey, what do you got in your basket?
Yeah.
Like, there's just let her go. So she has she's hit a freedom moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Until she tries to find a walking stick and pulls out a scarecrow out of nowhere. Turnip head. There's a funny, very sweet back and forth between a turnip head scarecrow that hops up and down and Sophie. And turnip head runs off with some quick wit and some sharp lines.
Well, she's like, oh, go find me somewhere to stay in. She's like, oh, I got rid of him. He's never going to come back. And then he comes like hopping around.
I fucking love that scene.
The castle. And it's the second time we've seen the castle because the movie itself, I forgot to mention in the beginning, opens with the shot of the mechanical castle.
Beautiful shot of it coming out of the clouds.
Right.
The misty clouds over the hills.
But this one I feel like is a little bit more important because we get the size and scope.
Yeah.
It's
Sophie
huge.
being a little old woman versus here is this huge mechanical castle.
I think it also stopped being like before it was, oh, look at this beautiful castle in the distance. Look how like serene it is in the environment. Whereas this one, it's imposing coming over the hill, golfing you. You see a mouth.
Like, oh my God, I'm going to get taken and my heart's going to, and she just stays still and she's like, maybe it won't notice me. And then he's like, the turnip man's like, no, get on there.
I just love that. He's like, darn, this isn't what I meant.
Yeah.
Hard pause. Welcome to a podcast from the podcast. We're going to talk about architecture, folks. What do we all think of the castle? Amanda, you made a quick comment about Baba Yaga's hut. Do you want to expand on that?
Well, it has like the bird-like feet. It has like the thatch. You can tell that at one time it was like a house is in there. Like it had like the thatching and like the red tiles and windows and like just bits and bobs. It reminded me of the Weasley house too.
A little bit. Yeah.
Just like just layers upon layers upon layers built up over years of it, just like, depending on, the Calcifer getting stronger or weaker, like things have fallen off, things have gotten put back on. It's like a complete chaos.
I think so the history of it was drawn by Hayao Miyazaki for the museum.
Okay.
So he drew it without the legs.
Okay.
No, it was just going to be a castle sitting there and some piece of artwork that he had. And they were deliberating on how to draw this castle, what to draw it like. And I guess one of the other owners of Ghibli basically showed him, dude, you've got this awesome piece of art. Let's just put some fucking chicken legs on it.
Right.
It's very much Baba Yaga because like you go to Baba Yaga's hut and it's like you don't really leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's a necessary evil at that point. In which case, sort of Howl is as well.
Yeah,
make deals, and she walked in and made a deal with so it's very like reminiscent of that.
Well, she becomes the old crone as well.
Yeah.
So
I
think it's beautiful because I think it also matches kind of the group. Hilariously enough, it matches the soul of Howl.
Okay.
Which is this mishmash stuff put together.
Junkyard
of emotions. And it's chaos, like his emotions, his very swingy emotions.
Well, you get that inside the house as well.
Yeah, but also very falling apart.
Okay.
Which is Howl's emotionally falling apart. And I thought it was a really good physical representation of him. And the whole building is representation of him, with Calcifer being his heart and his heart being the center of the hearth of the house. And the whole shtick is, even though he outwardly pushes people away, notice he keeps letting people into his heart, into
Yeah,
his
he's
building.
like, oh, I guess you're just here now.
Yeah, but he's willing to easily let people into his heart.
Yeah.
So what I found
Into
was
the building, by the way.
castle itself looked like shit. I'm not really a big fan of it.
Ah,
I think the eyes and mouth and stuff are fun as much as it is when you pull away from the initial shape. I do kind of see a heart, and then the breakdown in the inside of it, especially with the way Howl's beast form is or his alternative self.
yeah.
I almost got more of a bird's nest.
That too.
The whole thing was
Yeah.
more of a bird's nest.
In his,
It's
like, bedroom or
even
even
even the bedroom.
Yeah.
No, like the outside, just the color
Oh,
and the
yeah.
the outside of a bird's
Fuck
nest and
yeah.
how he collects, and then the inside of it is just shit packed
It's all
piled up,
trinkets.
and
Baubles
then
and-
the inside his
Yeah.
bedroom is just baubles and more trinkets and the shiny objects and stuff.
That has an extra layer. I've never even thought of it. I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, I mean, even
yeah.
his outfits, right? It's a lot like, I mean, we've all smoked weed and watched BBC's Planet Earth, where you see the scene with like the bird trying to do the mating
Well,
ritual,
very-
and he's
like she
cleaning,
said,
and
he's
yeah,
flamboyant.
he's flamboyant, and he's got these beautiful clothing and these jewels and everything that
Yeah.
he's trying to
Yeah.
offer women in.
Well,
Yeah.
he's trying to be the most beautiful he can be, and like his house, his entire house was a disaster except for his room, which was beautiful, adorned, like
Right.
everything.
I like how you think that's beautiful. That looks like a nightmare to me.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of clutter.
Get
but
upstairs,
to
take a pee in the
him-
middle of the night, step on a sword.
Ring, 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 ring.
Like,
Yeah,
every
Howl's
other-
up.
Yeah, like every other room in the house. Because I'm assuming she didn't go in and clean his room.
No,
No,
But
she might have
his
looked in
room
it and gone, fuck that.
Yeah,
wasn't
but
allowed.
to him, it was like his room was like his sanctuary, and he didn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
Like he barely took care of the hearth.
Yeah.
Like when she first went into the house, like the hearth was buried in like a foot of soot, and like the flame was barely there.
Yeah.
well, that's just kind of
Neglect.
surveys, not necessarily neglect. Yeah, neglect as well, absolutely.
Well, it's
but like,
neglect. The heart, the hearth represents himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
he
he
let
was
go.
neglecting it.
It was all
Yeah.
cobwebs and dirt and dishes, and every time they had to sit down, he was pushing stuff out of the way.
Right.
Yeah. No, I love the whole thing with the whole building represents him,
Mm-hmm.
and because he doesn't represent himself, right? He doesn't say that much. He's very direct when he says it, but again, like you said, it's very minimal and very not on the surface.
right.
Whereas all the rest of the house and everyone around it is what describes Howl.
Yeah.
So I think the house does the exact job it's supposed to. But again, it's one of those, it's not Hollywood where someone goes, oh, look at that house. Doesn't it look like Howl's heart? Like you have to almost
Yeah.
pick up on it yourself.
Right. The other thing I found was when we just like the fireplace, speaking of which, let's segue quick. Howl not taking care of it. It overburned with ashes. Completely looks like it's about to extinguish itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
You said that, and I'm like, what? And then he
Mike
talked. and I'm
Wazowski.
like, oh,
Mike
no. My
Wazowski.
first thought was the first thing I said out loud was he talks,
Calcifer.
because I've only ever seen like the gifs of him like eating.
Oh.
I didn't know he actually spoke.
Yeah. Well, everything in a Ghibli movie talks.
I guess so.
Everything.
It's true.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great scene because it shows, like I said, everything about this is all about the house.
Yeah.
Follow the shape of the house and what's in the house, and you follow Howl.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Yeah.
him. Sophie is physically cleaning the house, but what she's really doing is cleaning his soul, right? Protecting his heart,
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting stuff out.
getting the cobwebs out of
shit
his
Yeah.
emotions and his
Yeah.
soul.
So Sophie takes place as the cleaner. We are introduced to a much younger bread boy. Shout out to that one lad from the Hunger Games. What is it? Solomon?
Josh Hutcherson.
No, Markle.
Markle.
Markle is the kid. It's also known as Michael. Markle.
We get Markle.
In the book, it was Michael, but there's no Japanese like translation to that, so they translated it to
Maruku.
Maku, which is Markle.
We get Markle. And he puts on...
He looks like Ponyo.
I love Markle.
He
does.
Markle, my favorite little... character.
Wizard boy?
Wizard Apprentice.
Boy. As soon as he puts the cloak on and the hood and the beard comes down, and he's like, "Give me a minute. We're gonna deal with your shit in a minute." And he walks out and opens the door and starts
Stand by.
handing out like spells and like smelling salts and bullshit. And he's
I
just
just
kind
can't
of like,
tell if it's legit. Like, because at some point he gives out a spell like, "Oh, if you put this dust on your sail, it'll go somewhere." I'm like, I don't know if that's
I don't
actually
think
gonna work.
I don't think any of it's real. I think he's selling snake oil.
I
And
don't-
that's why they're like, we gotta go because we can't do magic.
See, I don't feel like that's true because that would counter Howl's true intentions, which is he seems cold, but he helps out people.
Yeah, I think it's legit.
I think it's legit.
I'm saying that all is real. I'm saying what the scam that they're doing isn't.
What do you mean? Oh, I'm not actually Jenkins part?
No, I think the reason why he's dressed like an old man and saying I'm Pendragon, I'm Howl, and
Howl's
selling
hiding.
here's fucking magic dust.
Yeah.
They can't control the wind. That's not going to work. Howl is the magic one, right?
No, I don't think that's true. I think because Markle is supposed to be an apprentice, so I think he can do small.
But we never see him do any magic.
No,
He's
That's the
doing
thing. You're right in the
the,
fan. That is a magic cloak Howl probably created.
No, he was doing it himself because he was unmasking himself. Like
in the book, it was flat out said it's a disguise, but that's in the book. I don't know what's
Right.
necessarily here, but he is supposed to be an apprentice, and you're right. They never. That's the problem. They never show
There's
him doing
not
magic.
enough shown
But
for how long the movie is.
I get what you're saying, but I can't. Knowing Howl's character,
Right.
I can't imagine him letting Markle scam people.
The guy who fucking abducts women, who's a bad guy from the beginning of the film, doesn't
he
lie.
might be trying
Yeah,
to,
maybe.
It might be
His whole
like,
thing is that he lies. He's been running from his problems.
He's
True.
running from the government, basically the king. So he needs to have all these different.
Well, that's the names are one thing, but
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? As
okay,
a
he
character
could, yeah.
standpoint, and granted, we're writing fan fiction at this
Also-
point.
Yeah.
It's my interpretation versus your
He could
interpretation.
still.
He
So
could
either
be
way,
his
it could be
apprentice,
bullshit. It
but
could
he's
be real.
also there when Hal's not there to take care of the hearth.
Well, he's his apprentice. So he took in Markle because Markle was orphaned. And he took him in.
He thought he was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, he just took him in to take care of him, and
Yeah.
he ended up teaching this kid as an apprentice.
Yeah, so he probably knows very low level.
Very like, hey, prestidigitation.
I like either option.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, part of me likes to giggle and think, "Oh, it's all he's just scamming people."
That's
and being
because
like,
you're a dark DM.
I am a dark DM. I am the dark DM. But regardless, Markle then takes off his hood, drops the beard, and kind of be like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Why are you here? What is happening? Why do we have a grandma all of a sudden?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Enough of that shit. We're cooking breakfast, and we'll discuss that."
He becomes like, okay, I guess so you can stay because she got Calcifer to do something.
Well, the
And it
whole
was only Hal can do that. Hal can do that. So he's like, okay, I guess so. You can stay.
it shows a lack of patience. It shows a lack
Yeah.
of. It shows the amount of magic that is going on in the house,
Yeah.
and lack of confidence within Markle to do magic himself.
Yeah.
And it also shows, in a weird sort of way, the house needs a mother.
Yeah.
It needs a touch. It needs a woman's touch. It needs the what the fuck are you guys doing? Like
Yeah,
she walks around
she's
the
very
place and is
blunt,
like,
right? She's like, no, I'm doing this. This is what's happening. And Hal's like, okay, give me 2 more things of bacon and eggs. We'll do this right.
"Oh, you think you can come in and clean this place up?" And then she does.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the third act. Sophie cleans for 45 minutes.
I do have to give a moment. Every single time I watch this movie, I want bacon and eggs.
Of course, it's a breakfast movie. This
those
is a
scenes-
breakfast movie.
That scene where they make the eggs, it's just
Yeah.
like, those are beautiful eggs and such thick bacon.
Yeah, beautiful double thick bacon. Sophie then pretty much tidies up the place, gets everything in order,
And
and
she
kind of
starts-
straightens shit out a little
She
bit.
herself straightens out. Like she's now,
She's not as hunched.
yeah, she
Yeah.
at one point stopped being hunched and she's more upright. Her hair is getting more longer, and some of her wrinkles have gone away.
I think the hair growing is the absence or the presence of time passing. I think the lines where she's like, I don't know where these bursts of energy are coming is because she's feeling younger, because the curse is starting to wear
Her
off a
hair
little bit, and her
varied.
confidence is coming back.
It's not the curse is wearing off. It's she is slowly,
She's
Well,
feeling,
she's not dying.
yeah, but she's slowly, air quotes, feeling confidence in herself and love and Howl.
She's feeling more her true self.
I don't know, my guy. Cleaning up the fucking toilet is not me being like, I'm in love with
No,
Howl.
but
this
it's
man
subtle.
can't wash his
It's
hands.
giving
This,
her
like,
another purpose.
right.
She's
Yeah.
happy to do it.
But that's what I mean. This is kind of like that.
This is weird.
It's kind of like that. Remember in Frozen where they're like, "Oh, true love's kiss wasn't some fucked up dude that picked you up. It
Never
was your
seen it.
sister."
Never seen it.
Right? In her, part of her curse was the classic true love, but it was loving herself.
Yeah. So the more she feels better about herself and self-love, she reflects that on the outside. So when she was getting doubtful is when her hair would go back short and like that little ratty,
Exactly.
more of like just haphazardly the short braid. And then as she got more confident, her hair would grow. But then as soon as she went back, her hair would get short again.
Yes.
Like her whole appearance was changing.
Yes. Exactly.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
They showed a few times where her
Yeah.
hair went from long to shrunk in like within
In, like,
a few
the same
frames
scene.
in the same
Yeah.
scene
See,
as
that's-
she got
yeah,
older.
Yeah, okay. Anime, man.
And
Anime's
also, like,
weird.
I'll give credit to the animators that they had to keep track of like so much progression just in, like you said, a
I don't
couple
think they did.
frames.
And it kind of
forgot.
fluctuated too, like a roller
Yeah,
coaster.
but
It'd
it
go
was very
back. Sometimes
subtle,
it'd be a
where you're
step
like,
back. Sometimes it'd be
oh.
a step forward.
And her voice would change.
Yeah. Those were a little more obvious just because we had two different actors in the dub. I'm sure if you had the Japanese actress.
It would be interesting to hear this in Japanese. Yeah,
Yeah, subtitles of it.
Yeah.
The door.
Yeah.
the
Twist
portal.
the twist of the handle, and they arrive in a different location.
Yeah, pretty
Different
cool.
doors in different locations. Different. What was it? Fake names. The
Jenkins, the wizard Jenkins, and Pendragon.
Pendragon, a classic King Arthur story. Howl. Do you think that came from Wales? Do you think that was pulled from maybe stories he grew up reading? I know I'm trying not to write the fan fiction here, but I'm just like
I'm assuming
there's
the
a
names
little bit of
come
like
from the
Earth.
book.
There's the names come from the book, but there's also like Earth names is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily make sense in that world. But whatever. Like we said, we're not writing the fan fiction.
Well, remember, Howl was an isekai, so he's thinking names from our Earth. and
That's what I'm
bringing them
saying.
to this
Yeah,
world.
that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they go about their lives. We're gonna like kind of jump up a little bit here.
Yeah.
They go about their lives. Sophie begins cleaning more, taking care of the house, shopping.
Yeah.
Becoming really getting the family into more of a family dynamic,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
really, really important.
Yeah.
And there's this whole sort of arc of, well, I don't want to do this. We don't do that. And she's kind of like, you guys are ridiculous. Yes, we're going to wash the vegetables before we cut them up kind of thing.
Yeah.
There is a weird, even getting Calcifer into shape and kind of bartering, saying like, I'm going to clean this pigsty of a fireplace because you're going to extinguish yourself
Yeah.
because of how dirty it is. And you kind of see the castle really kind of lighten up and improve. And almost in a way, you can certainly tell they did this on purpose, but the color palette slightly shifts. It becomes brighter.
Yeah.
As soon as the castle's clean, the windows
More
are open, and everything is
saturated.
more saturated, and everything's a little bit brightened up. There's a weird monochrome of like Hal being blonde or almost white-haired, and then Sophie cleans the bathroom and comes down, and he is now redheaded and loses his mind,
Yeah, because who wants to be a redhead?
which is
Which
very
is so funny because Markle's in the room right behind him.
right,
Like,
which is
"Well, little kid,
also funny. Yeah, 'cause
I'm
that-
so
okay.
ugly. I have this hair color, and the little kid's probably like, "What
That's
the
me.
fuck?"
That was me.
Yeah. And then that's when he gets like, "I'm not beautiful," and in his whole mood, he literally melts into.
So,
Before that, we do get the 3 invitations from the king trying to draw Howl out.
yeah.
Oh yeah, they're like, we need all the wizards to go after, and that's the
War-
Selman trying to get him.
War is
go-
coming.
War is coming. War is the underlying theme of this movie, even though we see bits and pieces of it. We don't necessarily understand why there's a war until later.
Yeah.
Until the last 5 minutes of the war.
Not true because
Last 5 minutes of the movie is the whole exposition dump.
yeah,
And you're like, "Ah."
not quite true. I think they do it too much in the background. I don't think they say it enough.
Yeah.
Which is that whole Japanese thing, which is they very early on when Sophie leaves the hat shop right at the beginning, some of the soldiers is going, "Oh, I heard the prince of the enemy
Yeah,
kingdom
they're trying to find the prince.
disappeared, and the countries are angry at each other because they're blaming each other and so on and
but
so
that
forth."
was said in such small, like, passing.
It's
supposed to rain tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
What about today?
It was
Who
like
knows?
Yeah.
she
Next.
walked by, overheard it, and then they never went back to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was missing posters and there was like war propaganda.
Yeah.
But the problem is
Yeah.
if it being a background, we didn't get a shot lingering on missing prints. But like there wasn't like enough, not billboards, but like we're looking for someone.
Yeah. And
Right.
one country's blaming the other country, and the other country's blaming the other
Right.
country. But one thing that, and we'll come back to this later on, is one of Miyazaki's statements. They went, "Well, how come this war ended so quickly just because of a prince?" And his whole shtick was, "Yeah, war's fucking arbitrary.
Yep.
It's stupid and it's arbitrary."
Yeah.
And that's sort of his statement with this is like, because one person went missing, you're going to fucking murder
Yep.
thousands and thousands of people.
Yep.
You're assholes. And I think that that comes out in this.
That's history though.
It's history.
Unfortunately, that's not necessarily World War I or II or even Vietnam. That's just history.
I mean, I think
That
World War
is
II was that was a classically different thing.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
which is why it's so famous.
Yeah.
But you're right. All other than the obvious ones, it's generally arbitrary.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was the Iraq War, which was definitely arbitrary.
Yeah. Hal goes to war.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
keeps
Howl
disappearing.
investigates why he's being summoned by the king and goes to war and witnesses wizards and mages. I'm just going to call them mages at this point. We don't do witches and wizards and whatever.
Well, they call female sorcerers. Basically, it's witch, wizard, and sorcerer is like the term for everyone.
Yeah.
So mages themselves, as the short form, are transforming themselves into beast-like monsters to help aid in this war. They are bombarding the countrysides on both sides, and everyone is a casualty and no one is safe.
Yep.
These warships fly overhead almost fish-like. Did you guys get fish?
Oh, I got
like
fish.
I
The
got
one looked like a
whale.
whale.
The one looked like
Yeah.
a whale, and then the enemy ship's almost more insectoid-like.
Yeah.
Very Nazca.
Well, so here's the deal: is they didn't really make it clear which ship was which. I don't think, and that was part of.
The black ones were the bad guys. The silver ones were the good guys.
I think that was just lighting. They treated the war arbitrarily.
Okay.
It didn't matter what side you were on.
But we need to
You
root
were
for
both fucking wrong.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I don't think they made it clear which side was which, because in the view of our side of the story of what Miyazaki was trying to tell us, which, to be fair, the war part of this is all Miyazaki. It was never in the original book.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All of it.
I can see that. It looked like it was very much added as like
Yeah.
they needed something else to focus on because there wasn't enough to make like a 2-hour movie with just.
Yeah, I think it did a
you
good
could've,
job of
but-
being like the energy, not the force of nature that gets the story moving.
Keep it moving.
Keep
it
The war-
moving.
The war is coming. We need to keep
And
moving.
you
The war is
needed
coming.
Howl to keep transforming because
Yeah.
that was the whole thing being like, if you keep going, you're not going to be able to be a human again.
Yeah, you can't.
Like,
Your
don't
heart can't
push
come back.
Yeah, don't push yourself.
Yeah, we've seen all these atrocities, and it's almost a story of like soldiers going out and getting PTSD and not being able to come back and have a family
Yeah.
because they're broken.
So Hal comes out and comes back a couple times, and then finally we have the hair dye scene. Hal freaks out. Hal turns into sludge.
Yeah,
It just goes gloop,
yeah,
and the house panics. The house panics, and Sophie has a little bit of a meltdown
because the house is him.
The house is him. Sophie has a meltdown because Hal keeps saying, "I'm not beautiful," and at this point, I'm exhausted with Hal as a character.
Yeah,
Sophie goes outside in the rain and just has a moment where she stares out at either the lake or the ocean. I'm not
Yeah,
quite sure.
Starlight.
some water.
Star Lake. And then goes back in and says, "Listen, we got to get our shit straight. We got to kind of calm down." And they throw Hal in the bath. Hal is then tucked into bed, and we get his bedroom, which is full of trinkets, and it's very bird nest like.
Yeah,
And it is beautiful shot. A lot of color, a lot of things going on, a lot of eyes opening, a lot of triangles and diamonds and bits and bobs. Sophie brings him some warm milk and kisses him on the forehead, and it's very just like, I am exhausted with Hal as a character. Hal is then confronted by Sophie saying, "Listen, the king is after you. What are we doing? We're running."
yeah,
Calcifer is kind of exhausted. We keep throwing wood on the fire and trying to we need to
Yeah.
jump. We need to run. We need to run. Why are we running? What are we running from? Kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Hal says, "You know what? I've got a great idea. You go talk to the king and tell him I'm a coward and I won't have to fight."
yeah.
And Sophie immediately goes, "That is a terrible fucking idea, my guy. Can we go back? You're a magic man.
Yeah.
Like, let's make it happen."
But she does it anyway.
She does it anyway because she loves Hal.
Yeah,
At
subtly, not directly at this point.
I think
but-
that these are the
Yeah.
moments where we get a moment of weakness with Hal, especially with his hair dye color and flip out.
Well, at
where
this point,
she-
it went back black.
it goes back black, but also back in black. You also get Hal's moment of vulnerability,
yeah,
in which case Sophie goes, "Oh, he's not David Bowie from Labyrinth. He's just a dude."
yeah. He shows
And-
himself to her.
He
Yeah.
reveals himself and kind of just breaks down, and I think that was really the true moment of her falling in love with him,
Yeah,
right? Because it is like, oh, like
Because he could have changed his hair back.
he could have did anything.
He could have went back to like just.
but
know,
he's emotional. He's
Yeah.
an
Right.
emotional
He's
wreck. She had
completely
to
unstable.
She had to pick him up and say,
Yeah.
"All right, atta boy, let's slap his slimy ass and get him up the stairs."
So at what point Hal, convinced this is a great idea, sends Sophie on her way.
Yeah,
There was a ring placed on Sophie's finger, the old compass ring,
yeah,
and Hal says, "Don't worry, I'm going to show up and help you." Sophie gets teleported to the palace or the main
the main city where the palace is, so she didn't have to go for that long.
Let's call it the capital.
Yeah, call it the capital.
We'll call it the capital. Sophie gets teleported to the capital, in which case she runs into the Wicked Witch of the Waste.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who pretty much talks a fuckload of shit, and it's pretty good. Carried by two of her goon men in a really weird sort of horse-drawn carriage. Without the carriage, it is just
They have a word for
or no
that.
horses. It's just the it's like a people.
There's a word for that. I forget the name of that type of. There's actually a word for like human carried
Yeah.
seats like that. They did exist. That's pretty normal.
No, I believe that. I can't remember the word either.
No, I can't
I know what you
remember
mean. There's a great scene where the carriage trolley like thing gets past the main the main fence of the palace, and immediately her servants, these slug-like mud people, immediately just kind of deflate and collapse. And I wanted it to completely crash. I wanted it to just kind of like drop and have like the and then just drag because of her weight.
I kind of loved their animation because it was like they didn't just disappear.
Right.
They sort of just were floundering, and they would like fall onto the carriage and like fall over and like slowly just like disintegrating. And it was just this like they were trying real hard, and they just would fall onto fall. It was just a gorgeous animation of them just tiptoeing and falling and sludging onto themselves.
Yeah,
And
they kind of crumple.
they kind of crumble. It was just I think it was really well animated.
Yeah. Sophie, as an older, confident woman, does not take any of her flack and says, yo, if the dog wasn't with me, because there's a little dog that all of a sudden gets introduced.
She thinks is Howl in disguise.
And keeps calling him Howl and talking to him like Howl, pretty much giving herself up.
Yeah, and telling the truth because she thinks, oh, it's Howl.
It's Howl. Makes her way to the flight of stairs to the main entrance of the Imperial Palace and begins to climb. The old Wicked Witch of the Waste, who we see now is severely overweight and severely large and having a hard time going up any stairs, is told that she can't use magic and that she shouldn't, like, she can't have her servants get her up.
Yeah.
She's got to do it on her own. It's the Imperial Palace or it's the kingdom or whatever. And it's a great honor to be here, so act like it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Pull your shit together.
I kind of like the idea of this scene where it was overcoming the first boss of your life, right?
Yeah. There's a cool circle there.
Yeah, it's a cool circle where this was her beating the Witch of the Waste. This was she, and
Yeah.
you notice no one fought except for like the bad guys off in the distance.
Right.
No, she beat the Witch of the Waste not by fighting her, but by kind of loving herself and having confidence in herself.
Well, she showed empathy because at the end it's like, wait, why are you all of a sudden looking older? Like, why are you shrinking?
And
into
you can
yourself?
make it. You can do it. Like, she kind of
by
encouraged
the end,
her.
she was rooting for her in a way, even though she's done this terrible thing to her. And she's like, I can't break your curse. I don't know how.
It's not easy watching a person drown.
Yeah.
It's like you want to hate her, and it was like the progression up the stairs. It's like, oh, we're kind of like not the same, but like
By the time when she starts the stairs, you're rooting against the witch. By the time you're at the top of the stairs, which is only a few minutes, you're kind of, I wouldn't say rooting, you're empathetic towards her.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And I think the fact that Miyazaki and the Studio Ghibli could do that in a matter of a few minutes, just with this scene up the stairs, is just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're also fucking disgusted by her.
Yeah, it's awful. It just shows how more, like, not even grotesquely overweight she is, but just how, like...
Well, it shows her inside.
Her insides. It's just a massive character of just bloated awfulness. In which case, she pushes past Sophie and says, oh my goodness, we're in, like, the main chamber. There's a chair. I've waited 50 years to be invited here, and I'm finally here, and I'm going to sit.
Yeah.
And Sophie is asked to leave. As a door slides open.
Well, she follows the dog.
the dog shows her where to go
She's like,
Weird that
Howl.
happens.
because she thinks it's Howl.
Well, no, the
showing
dog
her.
is leading her.
Okay.
Yeah.
The dog is leading her,
Yeah,
but she
yeah.
thinks it's Howl, so she's trusting it.
Right. A door slides open, and one of these weird, creepy Howl clone servants with blonde hair asks her to step through. And then all of the curtains rise, and the Wicked Witch of the West is zapped with 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 giant Edison light bulbs, and all of her power is sucked out as little fairy children connect hands and dance around her, sucking all of the life force and juice out of those
her
big,
magic.
thick veins.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Gross.
Just awful big, thick veins. At that point, Sophie is introduced to not the Queen Regent, but
Solomon.
The main consultant.
the main consultant,
like
or like
the-
the head of the sorcerer school, because she reveals that she was Howl's teacher.
I'm sure she owns the school. I'm sure she's like the
Headmaster,
the Dumbledore of the school, and she's also the main consultant for the crown. So she is not. It seems very clear that she's a puppet leader of the state.
The crown, the
royal family,
the royal advisor of magical.
To the king. Yeah.
To the king.
The
There's a
king
very
comes in.
long title there.
Yeah, but it's clear it's a puppet leadership where the king isn't really leading. Solomon is this person is really leading the state.
Yeah.
In which case, Sophie tries to play politics and loses.
Yeah.
Solomon outright says, "Hey, listen, we've got you surrounded. This is the situation. Where the fuck is Howl?"
Well, it's
Where
clear
is
at this
Howl?
point the dog goes and sits next to Solomon.
Yeah.
She's like, "You son of a bitch!
Oh, that's not how.
You know everything." And she kind of realized she knows everything.
Yeah.
Because she'd just been telling the whole story all the way.
The king arrives on an airplane broomstick sort of thing.
Yeah, steampunky.
Lands, walks in and says, "Listen, we're not going to use wizards anymore. Don't worry. Call it all off."
Very prim and proper.
Very
like a
prim
king
and proper.
you would expect a king to be.
The king, the actual king, runs in with guards going like, "I got a great plan." And he is scatterbrained and almost giddy for war and is less concerned about his son. And this is where I felt like this is the line. This is the space. This is the meeting room where it's like, "Hey, the prince has gone missing. This is why we're actually at war. We're looking for somebody. We need like your help."
Yeah.
What the fuck? And that would have been the through line of the plot, in which case to be like, "Oh, this is what we're actually after.
Yeah.
We're after Howl because we need your help to find this thing." And he's gone missing in the waste.
Yep.
And then as the audience, we all went, "Oh my God, the fucking scarecrow." Or not the scarecrow. Who is the prince?
Yeah.
Right. And
You
that
may
would have
not
been
think
a better
the scarecrow at that time.
Right. That would have been a better twist, but also would have hammered home the king is upset. It's not Hal coming in being cool and collective, being like, "Don't worry, we're not going to use wizards anymore." It's the king being upset and furious, being like, "I'm after him and I'm going to find him.
Yeah.
We need to get him back." In which case we don't get those lines.
Yeah.
We just get a king excited and bloodthirsty, ready for more conflict.
Yeah.
Sophie then turns around as the king leaves, and Hal doesn't drop his disguise, but it's pretty much like, we're kind of fucked now.
Yeah.
Like, she's way more stronger than I am magically, and we're completely fucked.
We just need to get out.
We need to get out. What? Hey, I checked in. I did what I said, so you can't do anything magically against me. Time to leave. And he goes, "Sophie, time to fucking go." Yeah. The queen, or not the queen, the head mage of council or blah, blah, blah. Solomon, thank you very much. Solomon does one of the coolest moves I've ever seen, where she taps the floor and a circle opens and pretty much casts Tidal Wave.
Yeah. It's like a universe opens up to just a universe of water, like the planar universe of water.
Oh my God, that's so cool. And like when you think the spell Tidal Wave in any D&D or Pathfinder, it's like, where is this water coming from? And just that is like, there it is. That's how it's done visually now in my head every time. And they have a little bit of a magic fight. And then the weird paper Star
I didn't imagine
Children,
so much as a fight as it is it's not so much a fight as it is to survive. It's like a struggle for him. He's just trying to hold it together and protect her, whereas Solomon's the one who's like fighting.
Yeah.
Because it's a clear victory.
It's a conflict. So yeah.
It's a conflict. Yeah.
So we have our first like actual like battle conflict then, where Solomon casts water and all of these stars start to dance around, and we get the weird sort of paper circles again.
Well,
around
she
these
makes
kids.
she makes it clear. She's like, "Let me show you," because at this point, Sophie defended Howl,
Yeah.
and basically said, "You're a monster, Solomon, for this war. You shouldn't be doing this."
Yeah.
And during that, she showed confidence in herself because she got young really quickly, and also she showed admiration or love, depending on how you do it, towards Howl and his absence of the war, or not absence. When you refuse to do something, anyway, his refusal to go to war, and she showed that confidence, and Solomon's like, "Oh, you love him."
Also gave it away, like, "Oh, now you're his weakness."
Yeah, and at this point, when she casts the spell, she's like, "Sophie, I'm going to show you who he really is."
Right. You want to see a monster? I'll show you a monster.
Yeah.
And then the paper mache star children that dance around. We started making jokes about the third impact within Evangelion because of all of these just giant, weird children singing, and they do the classic Miyazaki thing where there's like a chant, and it's weird, and you're
Well,
like,
they're
I
trying
don't know
to
if I
take
like
his
this.
power.
Yeah.
Right. She's trying to drain his power, and he's overcoming it.
Not only that, but I think it's also she's trying to show where his magic comes from, which are these like angel children.
Oh, it's the fire.
It's
like
the fire. It's what Calcifer is.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
these like
the star.
magic children or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. They call them the falling stars.
Okay.
But she's trying to do that. That's just visual showing.
Yeah.
But what she's doing is she's forcibly transforming him into the monster that he is. So that's what's going on. She's showing him who he is this monster, and he's just trying to fight against it.
Beautiful.
I fucking love it.
Beautiful.
I think it's a trying to convince Sophie, look, he's a dick. And
Yeah, he's uncontrollable and he will hurt you.
yeah, but he's doing this whole thing. While doing that, he is actively protecting her. So even though he is physically coming out as a monster, he is showing love towards her or care towards her.
Sophie and Howl escape through the greenhouse roof, getting on the magical metal broomstick again, and escaping with the dog and the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
And getting the fuck out of there. They are pursued by Solomon's goons, in which case Howl turns Sophie invisible and pretty much duplicates them, making a disguise, and they get away. Sophie flies the rocket into the moving castle's mouth, exploding through the door and landing. And then they have a moment of, we are completely fucked. Is Howl captured? What do we do?
Yeah.
And they panic. What happens next?
Howl shows back up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Howl shows back up at some point.
Because Sophie's sleeping, and then she wakes up still as herself, and then he walks by, and this is where
Wasn't
she
he
thinks...
incredibly bloody?
It's
Well, he
him,
was bloodied,
the blade
plus he was all
footprints.
animalistic. He was his bird
He
form.
went into his den, and then she doesn't know if
Right.
that was a dream or not. Because she
Well,
wakes
she goes
up.
to confront him in the bird's nest thing, and he's just a big ball of feathers.
He's like,
and
go
anger.
away.
I want you to notice there's something that I really, again, this is that Miyazaki fucking super subtle shit. As she's walking down through the bird's nest, the tunnel of bird's nest, she comes across two paths. And she goes down one path, and it gets less bobbly and less bedroomy and more feathers and darkness. And that's where she finds him. And it's a clear show of right now he's going down the wrong path.
Right.
It's a physical manifestation of the path he's
get
taken.
that. Okay, cool.
And you notice we didn't get all the way to the end of the path.
Right.
He's somewhere in the hallway still.
Right.
And so she's clearly going, oh, he's not all the way at the end of this path. He can still be saved.
Yeah.
But we need to pull him back a bit.
Right.
And that's when you find him all hulked out, animal hulked out and bloody. Probably, I'm assuming some of it might be his, some of it might be his enemies. Who knows?
Awful.
Yeah, he's got the whole beak mouth.
Yeah.
Beak face.
He goes full ballistic.
Yeah.
Sophie then takes care of the Wicked Witch of the West, nursing her back to pretty much to health.
Yeah.
Yep.
She is now an incredibly old woman.
Yeah.
Almost going senile and trying to piece together moments from her past. She recognizes the fire. She recognizes the beautiful boy. She recognizes the house. She's trying to piece together, where am I, as she slips more and more into dementia or senile. At which point Howl kind of wakes up and goes like, hey, we need to fucking get out of here and we need to move and we're going to change the house. And he shows Sophie the flowers.
Yeah, after he changes the house, he changes his heart and his care and includes her now.
Yes,
she's got her own bedroom now.
Right.
And he's expanded
and bathroom
and a new bathroom. Yeah.
And a new bathroom.
Yeah, to expand that, like, hey, my heart is expanding. My heart is growing with these people and this ragtag group.
This found family.
Yeah. And he does make a comment to Turniphead at this point, even though Turniphead never comes into the heart. You notice he never comes into the building.
He never enters the castle.
Yeah.
Howl always says, hey, your curse is way too strong, and I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's not.
I can't even have you enter because of how strong it is.
Yeah.
But Turniphead shows back up.
He's always on the outside. Yeah.
He always shows up. He shows up a couple times in the film. I know we missed some of it, but hey, watch the movie. From that point, Howl moves the castle a couple of times. Sophie is shown Howl's home.
His getaway.
His private space.
Yeah.
In which case, it is a large valley full of flowers.
Yeah.
At which point, Howl, off in the distance, sees a warship approaching, saying that even his oasis and his getaway is not safe anymore. It is threatened by war. The things that you held dear are now being slowly but very quickly pulled away from you.
Yeah.
Sophie confronts Howl saying, what the fuck? Like, you're setting us up with this store. You're setting us up with a new home.
Yeah.
We're very far away from my home, and we're in the middle of nowhere, a field of flowers with a dimension door.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, but this sounds like you're leaving us. What is going on?
Yeah.
And Howl goes, relax. I'm not leaving you, but I might have to leave you. Let me do some magic.
He's
And
clearly going
trying to
leave.
exit
Yeah.
again.
Well, he's clearly trying to protect them. Is what's going on. Is he's trying to use what he's done before, which is run away,
Right.
as a form of protection for them.
Yeah, he's trying to set them up.
So he's still trying to do what he used to do, but now he's doing it for someone else,
Right.
rather than for himself. So it's like, okay, there's growth, there's change.
He's
So
being less selfish.
At this point, Howl transforms back into his beast form because we're assuming that it's a little bit more tempting as he changes more and more.
Yeah, well, I think every time he goes to war, every time he fights, every time he goes to war, he grows darker.
Right.
And he uses a bit of his power, which manifests as his beast form.
And goes to attack the skyship, the sky warship.
Yeah.
Sophie leaves, Sophie leaves. Sophie escapes because
Well, I think
they're
at this moment, this is where she truly falls in love with him.
Yeah.
she truly falls in love with him. We get under conflict and attack because Hal unplugs all of like the engines and stuff, and then they go, well, we need to take defensive measures and take out that's the guy we were looking for. Hal helps Sophie escape back into the city, in which case the town is about to be bombed by the enemy.
Yeah.
Because Hal at that point had what we assume the allies versus the enemies. Hal had fucked with the ally ship that was after him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was out to go stop the bombing of the town.
Yeah, and he makes the comment here where she says, oh, is that the enemy state or our state? And he goes, it doesn't fucking matter.
Doesn't matter anymore.
War's war.
We're gonna get bombed. If
Yeah.
they don't, they're gonna bomb us either way. In which case,
Doesn't matter. War's bad. Doesn't matter what side.
Hal's new home and for Sophie and the Found family immediately is going to be bombed. The Wicked Witch of the West is kind of smoking a cigar. We didn't even get the mom coming in.
Yeah.
But there's a lot we missed. The Wicked Witch is smoking a cigar. We are confronted with Solomon's people. The house is bombed. The city is bombed.
So the city's starting to get bombed. They've connected the house to a specific city part.
Yep.
And what's going on is they weakened, Solomon weakened Calcifer through the Wicked Witch.
Yep.
And they tricked, using Sophie's stepmom. They
Yeah.
tricked her and basically blackmailed her.
Yep.
And basically, you're going to bring your purse and leave it in there. Right. And that purse brought in two items. One, a cursed like spine worm. And the other one was this magical cigar, which weakened the household.
Yeah.
During that time, that's also when Solomon probably planned to bomb stuff.
Right.
So they started to bomb where the house was connected to. So if they bomb
Yeah.
that, they bomb the house.
Right.
And Hal was trying to protect the hat shop, and that's why she's like, we have to move, so he leaves and isn't worried about it.
So Howl
Right.
is sacrificing himself to
Yeah.
protect the people he loves.
Yes.
yeah.
And she's going, we can't let Howl sacrifice himself for this. We got to do something. She makes a fucking gambit, last ditch effort.
She swings for the fences.
She swings to the fences.
She swings for them fences.
and
Yeah.
pulls everyone out, including Calcifer,
Yeah.
from the house, which just collapses everything, but disconnects her from the house so that Howl no longer has to stay there.
Billy
and
Crystal's
can-
great in this movie. I just want to comment.
Oh,
We're not really
he's-
spending enough time on him,
No.
but Billy Crystal is a fucking gem. in
I don't
this
know what's going to
entire-
happen.
Yeah.
Okay, just make sure I go out last.
Big ball of anxiety
Yeah.
this entire movie. I don't want to. Okay, maybe. I don't know. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic in this entire
The
movie.
fire, it's running out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
he's
then
great.
This is where we get her going back into the house, reigniting him on the hearth, and having to sacrifice part of herself.
Well, she does that because she's like, we now need to tell him we're fine.
We're leaving.
Let's go get him.
Yeah.
Once we meet with him, he'll leave the war and we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
Right. We can run.
We can run.
And she makes the great comment of the man that I met, or the boy that I met, has done nothing but run.
Yeah.
And now this, for the first time, this man wants to stay and fight, and that's
I
not
wish he
what we
was a
need to do.
coward.
I wish we need him to be the coward, not the
Yeah.
we need him to be the cowardly boy, not the
Yeah,
man.
because for
who's
once
actually-
they love each other and he
Right.
finds something worth fighting for.
right, to be like, hey, this was my oasis, this was
Yeah.
my home. How dare you attack it?
Yeah.
Which is very, very beautiful.
This is where we find out that Calcifer actually has Hal's heart, because he's like, oh, imagine what I could have done with your eyes or your heart rather than just your hair. And
Well, we
then it
actually get the
clicks.
demon moment of Calcifer being like, no,
And then the
make me more
wicked-
powerful, and I'll
Then
do
the
what
witch
you
is
need.
like, that's his heart. I'm
That's
going
the
to
thing I'm
grab
after.
it. And that's where it all kind of unfurls.
Falls apart.
Her plan would have worked, except the Wicked Witch it shows her greed.
Sophie throws water on the Wicked Witch, extinguishing Calcifer and saving the Wicked Witch. She then
It all crumbles. She uses the magic door to find, because she's crying and she's like, I fucking killed Howl.
right.
And then the ring, kind of because she was thinking of Howl, was like leading her to Howl, which was through the door, the magical door.
Yeah.
Right.
And it leads her to the past.
The shattered past of the sorcerer's beginning.
Yeah.
In
Howl's.
which case, Howl finds a star and finds
Calcifer.
and makes a deal.
Yeah.
In which case, gets his magic.
And they curse each other, technically.
And they just curse each other into the moonlight.
Yeah.
It's real sweet.
But she
Just
gets,
get cursed
because
under
the ring
moonlight.
is failing, she eventually it shatters because it's holding the magic.
I thought it was
together.
going to take her finger.
Oh.
I thought it was.
Well,
we were going to
It would
get
get real tight
It
on
was
there,
going to get
right?
real tight. I honestly thought, I was like, oh my god, it's going to squeeze and just take her finger off.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awful.
It got real fucking tight. So then she shatters and she's like, find me in the future, which is kind of where I
Which
talked
is a
about in the
weird
beginning.
time loop.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which is kind of where it leads that he was doing everything from
He
the
was
beginning to
looking.
find
That's
her.
why he was going after girls. He was trying to find.
And he was trying to find pretty girls because he remembered her being pretty.
So right at this moment, to tell you the truth,
That's why I didn't recognize her, because her hair wasn't silver.
Yeah, maybe. And years.
Yeah.
right at this moment though, right around here, and I know like the movie itself is trying to wrap up, but I was like, oh my god, there's like still like another 45 minutes to this film. Like it's a very long movie,
Yeah.
and they tell a lot of story within that. And even this like the flashback moment, it was just like this could have been a little bit of an exposition dump within the characters
Sure.
to kind of allude to Howl and how Howl got his powers, or why any of these characters are in these situations.
Yeah.
Which I feel like would have expanded a little bit more of a richer backstory within it.
Yeah.
But once again, don't want to write the fan fiction. This is what we had as the story. Hal himself, or Sophie herself, yells out saying, "Come find me in the future."
I now know how to break your
I now know how to break your curse. She then finds Howl, who is just this crumpled bestial mess of blood and feathers and this
barely
creature.
human.
Elongated neck, these huge claws. Everyone take a deep breath. We got lots of time. Don't worry. Including you, listener. Take a deep breath. How's your day going? You're good.
The movie gets very manic at this point.
The movie gets incredibly
it goes really
manic.
fast.
So we have Sophie go, listen, we need to find Lucifer right now, or Calcifer right now.
She kisses Hal.
Kisses
being
Hal
like,
for the
"Don't
first time.
worry,
We get our
I
first
got
little smooch.
you."
We go, yo,
Yeah.
babe, yo, boo, get in the back seat. We're
I got
going.
you. I found you. I'm sorry it took so long.
Yeah.
Which is weird, and like this weird gaslighty. It's just, I don't know. I don't like their relationship. I'm sorry. I know you said a very sweet thing about you and your wife. It's just a weird relationship with these two fictional characters. So they fly off to find the family and Calcifer, in which case Sophie begs and pleads with the witch to give her Hal's heart.
Yeah.
In which case Hal is then.
But it's a show that she could have like punched the witch and taken the heart.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
don't know if she
part of
would've.
but what I'm saying is that's a part of Miyazaki's, what he's trying to say here is everything that has gone well is because someone has says, "You're lovely. I love you. Thank you."
Yeah.
It's showing love and compassion. Whereas everything that's gone bad is because of war, when you take in an assault aggressive stance. And this is just that statement where she could have taken the aggressive stance, punched the Wicked Witch, gotten the heart, and done. But that wouldn't have worked because that's not who Sophie is. Sophie has to show love, and that's that magic of Sophie. Is it's not that she's a wizard; it's that she shows compassion.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. She's not a heroine because she's the most powerful. She's not the strongest. She's not a Mary Sue. She's not Rey, who can suddenly do magical spells. No, all she is someone who cares about other people, cares about them more than just saying I love you. Care about someone who is not always willing to fight, but she's willing to clean. She's willing to do all these little things that really show her love through, I think, what is classically women values. I'd say classical. We've changed, and that's fine. Like our universe has changed, and you change with it. But
You okay with that? You don't sound okay with that.
no, I'm totally fine with it. I'm just saying that, like, sometimes when you say things like that, it can come off as like, well, you don't like
Misogynistic.
misogynist. You don't like the way it is now. Like, no, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But this came out when it came out,
Yeah.
and it shows a certain version of feminism, a certain version of womanhood. And I don't think I don't think one's wrong and one's right. I think this is just a historical view of it. And I think that's very good that she shows us that that's what comes out is her love and care of all these people.
Yeah.
That's what makes her the heroine, not that she's the strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the most loving.
Which brings me to my next point. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode of Raised by Spoilers is sponsored by kindness. Be kind. Take a brief moment. Smile.
No,
Be kind to each other, everybody.
I think after she kind of puts the heart in and Howl shows his emotions.
It wasn't my heart, it was my liver.
I think I think the only failure in this movie, in my opinion, which kind of ruins it from being like a 10, is the subplot with the prince. And
We're going to get there. Okay. So at which point, Hal wakes up and goes, oh my God.
The weight of emotion.
The weight of emotion. Is this what it feels like? Why is my chest so heavy? And she's like, oh, Hal, you stupid boy.
Yeah.
You stupid, handsome boy. You just have a heart now. And he's like, oh no.
Yeah, he's Calcifer set free, but he comes back.
Yeah.
He misses them.
Like the genie from Aladdin.
In which case, the Scarecrow, because they are falling to their death on a piece of wood, very Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Shout out to you.
The last piece of the castle.
And they slide down, and the Scarecrow, Turnip Head, uses his entire stick. He just uses that big rod and tries to slow down the speeding piece of wood, the plank, as it slides to their utter doom, as the stick grinds to a halt, stopping the cart, or stopping the piece of wood as it's about to slide off like a cliff. And Sophie picks up the Scarecrow and holds him down in her arms, and it's a very reminiscent scene from Pearl. If anyone has seen the Mia Goth movie by T. West, it's fantastic, and shout out to those. She sort of just goes and leans in and just goes like, "I knew it was you the entire time." And
no,
fuck
she's
Hal.
like, "Thank you so
and
much."
Me,
no,
baby.
she's like, "Thank you. We'll get you a new stick. Thank you."
I lied. I love turnips, and then she just kisses him, and it's beautiful. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the third act of this fucking movie. Welcome to the third act. We get Turnip Head does a somersault backflip and transforms into a prince. And we're like, what? What happens here? Like, what?
And it's like, oh, the kiss of your true love broke your curse. And I'm like, wait, isn't she Hal's true
Listen,
love?
all three of them can be in love with each other, okay?
No, and then he's
Maybe
like, the heart can
polyamory
change.
thing's happening,
No,
and that's fine.
The heart can change,
Well,
so I will be back to convince her to be with me. And it's like,
I don't know if that's not what he said.
That is exactly what
he didn't
that
say
was.
to
what he
convince
meant.
her.
Parking lot,
that's it.
3
The heart
o'clock.
can change, so I'll be back.
I'll fight for my love.
And
I
then-
will agree. That is the worst part. Like
And
this part sucks.
He kisses her hand, sniffs her hair, and then pieces out and says,
he
"I'm
gets
coming
back-
for you, wizard
He
boy."
gets back on the stick and magically jumps away into the distance.
He connects it between his ass cheeks and his feet and
I
hops away.
I assume he is a caster because when you're, the prince, I'm sure you went to the
Yeah.
academy. So I'm sure
Yeah.
he can cast spells, which is why he's fine with jumping on a stick.
And then the dog crystal balls back to Solomon being like, this is what happened. And she's like, you should have got back to me sooner. But I guess Hal found his true love. Get the president on the phone and end this war.
Get the president on the phone.
Which the thing
We
is,
have a king.
Prime Minister.
Prime
and
Minister,
the defense.
which to me, it's based on like UK stuff. So
Yeah.
even then, you have your royal family, which wasn't deciding to go to war. It was and it wasn't a prime minister.
Bro, don't justify the prince being
It
a
was-
scarecrow to me right now.
Yeah, no, it was the defense minister.
Yeah,
defense
get the defense
minister.
minister on the
So she
phone.
wasn't going to the king; she was going to the defense minister,
Yeah.
who was then going to convince the king.
Yeah.
But I think, first of all, that's fine because that was all under the theme of Hayao Miyazaki, where war is arbitrary.
Yeah.
That mix, that's fine.
Sure.
It left you with a lot of questions. unless
Sometimes
you
a
knew
prince
that.
is a scarecrow.
Yeah.
Sometimes England's got a king still.
I do think the Prince suddenly showing up, I think Prince being the turnip head is great. That's an awesome concept. I think he became back human because of True Love's kiss is like, you just fucking ruined the whole point
Is
of the climax of these two relationships.
Is this why Howl wouldn't let him in? Because he knew who he was. And he's like, you're not getting near my
He
girl.
ain't making moves, dog.
That is
not
deep.
a chance.
Your curse is too much. No, I know who you are and I'm not helping you.
That's
That's
great.
exactly. Did Howl curse the prince?
don't
no,
think so.
I don't know who did. But that is
Nobody
a
does.
great interpretation.
That he
I
knew.
love it.
That he knew. He knew. Oh my god.
That is great. No, I think it's
Here's
the
my-
weakest part of the movie.
Here's my little fanfic. Ready? Here's my fanfic.
Okay.
Howl abducted whoever the prince was supposed to marry, broke her heart. Howl then turned around and cursed the prince into a scarecrow.
I mean,
Oh.
that
Howl,
doesn't
every,
sound wrong.
Howl,
Is out there.
every opportunity running into the scarecrow, because we run into the scarecrow like 4 or 5 times, and all the scarecrow is trying to do
Oh,
is
he's taken
fucking
a
get
liking.
in.
No,
all-
because she says he's taken a liking to me. He keeps showing up where I am and following me.
All the Scarecrow tries to do is get his ass into the castle to throw fucking fists at Howl, and that never happens.
And the best part is it's got the turnip smile the whole time, so he can't express that he
if
fucking
he
hates him.
flip it around and it's just a turnip frown, it would have been the funniest thing.
I love this fanfic.
Oh my God.
I love it.
That's
I love
where
it.
I'm at.
No, I think that's the weakest part of the movie is the sudden, unexpected true love's kiss bullshit.
Yeah.
I wish there was something else to it.
Yeah, because she didn't even change Hal. Well, I guess she's not Hal's true love, though. Because she didn't change him back when she kissed him. He was still...
Well, his wasn't about
Her
how...
lips aren't that magical.
I
The
guess
problem is the
not.
curse on the turnip was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his wasn't one's true love. His was needed the heart back.
Right.
Yeah,
And it
true.
needed to be given back by someone who... Anyone would take the heart. It had to be given by someone who was willing to give his heart back.
Yeah.
Right.
Which everyone else would have been greedy about the heart.
To try to get it, yeah.
To try and get it, where she was like, no, I'm going to give you your heart. She was the only one willing to do that.
Right.
Right, the Wicked Witch of the Waste would have taken it instead. Turnip Head's one was just I love this movie, but it's fucking dumb. It's fucking dumb.
Welcome to fucking Raised by Spoilers, everybody.
So,
So
they live happily ever after.
they live
after
the
that.
end. Oh my
In
God.
the flying
That's what it seems like.
in the flying castle.
Yeah, the castle was remade, looked more homey. Now it has wings.
Yeah.
So he's up in the air, flying around.
Cool.
And
So
then that's it.
Which I thought her with silver hair was fucking cute as shit.
yeah, it was cute. She cut her braid off, and then Calcifer took it and became even more powerful than you never knew. But we're gonna do the speed round real quick. All right, everybody.
All right.
Special effects. The castle was digital. We all agree.
Yes.
It was not invasive.
Only parts of it was digital.
Yes.
Okay.
What other special effects can you name in Howl's Moving Castle?
I think it was just the castle and the ships.
Not
There's a
all
couple
of it.
things,
Yeah,
but
there's a
yeah.
couple things, but it was still some of it was hand drawn.
No props were used in this movie besides paper and pens.
Okay, so
Yeah.
check.
He's very clear about his lines was everything should be done by hand, even if you're using a computer.
Absolutely.
That's one of his lines.
Argument now. Does it hold up?
Yes, without a
I
doubt.
think it does.
think-
Because, like you said, there's always going to be young people, not necessarily just young women.
Hard stop, young
but,
people.
you know, who
At
see
some point, we're all gonna
themselves-
be born 40 with a suit and tie.
Oh, yes.
Is that what you're getting at?
Young people.
There's going to be young people finding this and putting, like you said, putting themselves in her situation, being like, oh, I'm like, you know.
Don't get got, young people. If you find this in a time capsule, please don't get
I
don't
think it
get
holds
got.
up. It's a classic, like you said, romantic story that can be in any era because it is very much, you know, based in like, you know, old war times of steamships
World
and
War
everything.
One,
So.
steampunky World War One.
No, I think it holds
It's a
up.
cool little alternative universe. So
I think a lot of people can still relate to it no matter what.
I struggle
think
with
it's
a lot
amusing.
of romance movies because I feel like a lot of it is
gotta find the right ones.
maybe.
Have you seen Predator? It's a beautiful romance movie.
No, but seriously,
Two
like
men.
there's a lot of romance movies I don't like. I feel a lot of them are predatory.
Twilight.
Yep.
Twilight is a great one.
Yep.
I think a lot of them suck. There are a few that I do like, but this is one of my favorite ones where, yes, the character is shitty, but they make it very clear it's on purpose. And she saves him. Notice there is no him saving her.
Right.
He had no involvement
Yeah.
in saving her.
Sorry, I
She
got there a
saved
little
herself.
late. Sorry, I was doing my own thing. I showed up late. Hey, my bad. Oops. Yeah. not good.
Like he tried to protect her, but really she is the hero of this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
she saved him. She saved the house.
She
like,
saved herself.
she-
At some point, he was willing to sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
But she didn't need him.
No.
She was like, "Fuck you! You're doing the wrong thing. You're an
Yeah,
idiot.
Let me help you.
Let me help you." So she, to me, for the first time in a romance movie, she was the true
Yeah.
hero, and not through like a Ripley. She is not a facsimile of a man hero, which is look at me, I'm Ripley. I'm a tough character. No, she was a feminine, motherly figure, and through those features, those classic styles, is the hero, and
Yeah.
I love that fact.
It's a lot of healing in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of healing, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think it's a fresh take. I think there's a lot that is very different for examples within this film.
I do want to give
beautiful.
one more quote from Miyazaki because I think it encapsulates this movie very well. The reason, this is a quote from him, the reason we made Howl's Moving Castle is that there are too many unhappy matters in the world, such as wars, economic crises. We hope that through the movie, people can keep up their courage and the hope. The future world is nice and beautiful. It is worthy for us to survive and explore it.
Beautiful. That's really nice. Thanks, Miyazaki. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a podcast within a podcast where we bridge those brows. We're going to talk about eyebrows. Ladies and gentlemen, what was your favorite scene? Well, it's an animated film. What was your favorite scene that stand out? Normally, this is the special effects or moments. But what was like one thing that really kind of stood out from Howl's Moving Castle that will always live with you?
I love the moment where Sophie, for once, when she gets the flower field, for the entire scene, she's young Sophie. Mm-hmm. And because she's feeling confident, she's feeling loved. She loves herself. She feels loved by Howl. Yeah. And at some point, she's like, "Oh, you're leaving me, Howl. Oh, you're just leaving me." She shifts, and she starts to see that doubt because she's thinking, "Oh, you're leaving me because I'm not important enough to you." Yeah. Right. And she feels like you're doing this because you don't love me. And doubt sets in, and she immediately grows old. And I absolutely love that scene where she's like, "It's because I'm ugly." And he's like, "No, you're fucking beautiful."
Enough of that.
Enough of that shit. Like, don't self-talk yourself. Yeah. You're fucking beautiful. Yeah. And I absolutely love that scene where he just can't get through to her. And it's about her. Mm-hmm. It's about her and her own feelings. Even when he says it, he can't get through. And again, little self-talk here is that's something that's one of the features that happens a lot between mine and plebeian wife's Amanda's wife. I come with all the confidence and all the self-confidence and like, no, I trust me, I know I'm good. She doesn't. And it's a fight that I constantly like, "No, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met." Mm-hmm. And I constantly have to reassure that. And she doubts herself. And that's part of that. I see a lot of us in it. And to me, I see a lot, especially in that scene. I've remembered many conversations I've had with my own wife where I'm like, "No, you're fucking beautiful. Don't be like that. Yeah. Don't self-doubt."
And that's, that's really important. And I think that affects a lot of people. Yeah. Especially if you have a bird for a husband. You know what I mean? It's a little weird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's a very meaning, and I think a lot of people, it's obviously dramatized and very, very fantastical version of it.
Yeah, it's expanded upon.
It's expanded upon. But I think that's something that a lot of people have problems with is that self-doubt, and I think that sucks. Hey. So that scene means a lot to me because every single time I see it, there's a bit of like, I well up just a bit where I'm like, fuck yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode's been sponsored by kindness. Don't forget to love each other. Amanda. What are you rating for eyebrows? Where are you at?
I like the scene when they're trying to escape from Solomon with all the, where she's trying to shoot them down with all the stars.
That's really cool.
And all the stars are flitting across and everything. Like, that was really cool.
That's dope.
Yeah, I like those effects. I think it was really pretty. Very Fantasia-like.
Yeah, a little Fantasia-like. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We're missing a mouse and a broom and some brooms.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked the tidal wave fight or conflict. I thought that was really, really cool. The use of magic in this movie is hit or miss. Or lack thereof, I should say. There's as much of they're all wizards and they barely use magic, or there's moments where there's a lot of magic and it's really important, or there's very little magic. Yeah. The animation when they cooked breakfast was delightful because that's just always, any Ghibli movie, any food in a Ghibli movie is what we should be doing. Especially if we do Ghibli in review. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go around the table once again. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's do final thoughts and ratings. Where does Howl's Moving Castle sit on the list?
Am I going?
Yeah, Adam, go ahead.
8.5.
Wow.
Okay.
Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies. It is not
lower than Alien.
Yeah, I loved Alien. No, I didn't give Alien.
No.
You gave Alien 8.5. Alien, you gave a 7.5. We begged you for a 7.5.
Oh yeah. That's that. No, so you mean higher? That makes sense.
Yeah, higher than it. Yeah. What did I say? Lower than Alien?
Yeah, I love Howl.
Yeah, that's fair.
I love Howl.
Okay.
The only reason, whatever. I'm not going to go into Alien.
Oh, we're going to fight about Alien another time.
Alien is just because it has problems where it's Cthulhian horror and you can't.
Sure.
You can't undo knowledge, which ruins Cthulhian horror. Yeah. This you can watch over and over and over again, and you only get more and more and more. See that. And I absolutely, every single time I watch this movie, I discover something new. Every time I talk about it with someone else, I find something new.
That's cool.
And I absolutely love that. Again, I would give it like a 9.5 if it wasn't for that turnip head bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Turnip Head I just wish there was more from that.
I liked him before I knew he was a prince.
No, you like him more now.
I liked him. I liked the turn of the prince. I just didn't like the true love's kiss part. It was very Deus Ex Machina. Wrap this up, guys. Like, get to the end. We're wrapping it up. Yeah. And I didn't like that. That felt wrong.
I don't know. I give this one, I guess, a 7. Like, it was good. I like it. I do maybe have to watch it 1 or 2 more times to actually get it, but I feel like it was a little bit hard to follow at some points just with whose motives are where, but I get that. Now listening to what you're saying, it's more supposed to be interpretation. Yeah. So for now I give it a 7, but I will definitely rewatch it and it'll probably go up from there.
It took me, like I said, when I first watched it, I didn't like it. I had to rewatch it over and over and over again.
That's on me. A lot of these movies though,
like Mononoke revisit was more impactful the first time I see Mononoke than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mononoke I
very
had to watch
different.
twice though too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
But yeah, I'll stick with a 7.
7. Beautiful. I will go honestly with a 6.5, 7. I'll agree with you. There's a couple of things that I really liked about this movie. I think it's stylish as hell, but that doesn't necessarily. I think every Studio Ghibli movie is stylish as hell. So that's where like it's getting like the Nintendo points where it's a
Yeah.
Nintendo
Yeah.
game. So of course it's going to be good, but also there's some holes.
Yep.
Right. And there's some problems, and that ending is funny, and Hal's kind of a shitty character, and not like in like story wise is a shitty character, but just like you have a hard time with Howl. Howl
Yeah.
is like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
come on.
He's
like,
tough.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Sophie as well with the age thing I enjoyed. I think that like her being like, well, I'm old now, so I guess whatever, fuck it. I've got courage and I'm going to shoot my shot.
It's not courage
I
at the
enjoy it.
beginning. It's lack of caring. I
Yeah.
think. And then it becomes courage.
Yeah, I think the age agnostic thing, where it's just kind of like, fuck it, I'm old. Like I'm gonna go do the thing regardless. I'm old. Who cares? Is really important. I think Howl's Moving Castle is important in the Miyazaki trilogy or anthology of films. I think there's a sense of wonder that could resonate for a lot of people. I'm happy that you enjoyed it so much and that it's so dear to your heart. But yeah, so I honestly like. I'm gonna say 6.5, but I'm gonna give it a 7 because I think once again, like the further away from it I get, the more I'm going to enjoy it.
Okay.
But as a review, is the film itself and like the things that I like
in the moment now,
right?
having
In the
just
moment
watched
now,
it.
it's probably a 7,
That's fair.
but I'm not hot on it, kind of thing. I think there are other films that the studio has done that
Yeah.
are a little bit more enjoyable, but that's just my kind of taste
Yep.
and my taste of an anime. But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. That was Raised by Spoilers. You can find us on all of your podcast networks, YouTube, and Twitter. Hit us up. We want to hear what movies you want us to review. Good night, everyone, and
Good night.
be kind.